the Sunday Million this week.
Exactly. I was too busy losing tournaments in a live setting. I wasn't available to lose tournaments on the online setting.
Went into a level of detail there that you didn't necessarily need to go into.
I was playing. If I was able to play, this was probably the week I was going to win the Sunday Million. But what can you do?
Yeah.
As an ace is flopped by Gutshot 19 here. This is a big blind. I think the 10s still be feeling pretty good and likely wanting to bet all of the hands in their range.
Yep.
The further are we down with the further down we are with our pairs, the more likely we will be to bet. They benefit more from protecting. But a check raise coming in.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting with this kicker versus under the gun, because you still got to be worried about the stronger aces.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another ace on the turn.
I mean, the thing is, this turn is, first of all, check raising with an ace here is very unusual line for the big blind to have, right? But then when the board pairs, the 10s can now be like, oh, well, then they must have flush draws here or something like that, and convince himself to call the turn. Because it's really weird for them to have ace-5 in this spot, so I guess a lot less likely that they're going to be running into those combos against most players. So this might confuse FSM into putting more chips in the pot. Certainly would confuse me, Spraggy. I don't know about you, mate.
Yeah, this sizing's a bit weird as well, because it's kind of committal, but it's not all in. So I'd definitely be worried. It's a tough spot with 10s, but worth noting that the under-the-gun player still has so many easy call-offs. They still just have every ace, every suited ace, some like strong offsuit ace that is like snapping. So they've got to fold some hands in the range. 10s might well fall into that fold bucket, especially against a sizing and a line that does look kind of nutted. I know it's kind of an all-in and that they're betting and they're never folding, but I'd almost kind of more likely to fold to this than I would a jam, just because this feels stronger.
Yeah, I think the jam is more likely to be like 4 or 5 of hearts if they were going to play their hand that way or something like that.
So 53 players remaining from a starting field of 10,507. That was 7,811 unique players, 2,696 re-entries. 1,711 got paid, and with 53 remaining, everyone is now guaranteed at least $553 plus any bounties they have won. We will keep going tonight until we are down to a winner. The Sunday Million is a 2-day tournament. They played down to 83 on day 1. They'll play down to a winner tonight, and we will watch every single hand, hopefully, assuming that BT doesn't let me down again.
Come on, BT.
As I said to you guys just before we were able to restart the stream, Community Fiber is coming within weeks, and I cannot wait.
I remember I was in a similar situation when I started streaming. I had like really bad broadband, and then like slowly got upgraded, and the upgrade was this may be testament to how sad my life is, but it was one of the best days of my life. Like my wedding day.
But here's
signing with PokerStars, then Community Fiber.
Here's the thing, Benjamin. To me, you live in the sticks. You're meant to have bad internet.
Yeah, I agree.
I
Yeah,
live in London. I pay a fortune for my property. I should have the best internet money can buy, and there is nothing available to me right now.
Well, you could be Finton and not have access to
it's amazing.
Any internet.
It's amazing. It's like, however bad your situation may be, you just have to say the F word, and it's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good.
The Finton hand get out clause, yeah.
Oh, man.
Player in the big blind has a pair here and a lot of chips. A pretty awkward situation for the ace-queen high. It's still going to be good sometimes, but really miserable to try and carry it to a showdown.
Yeah, I think I like a small bet here from Peter. I think you don't want to go too small where you can still get ace-high float. So, something like 40%, 50% here sounds about right. Just to protect your hand. Once your opponent bets flop and doesn't continue turn, you're going to be doing pretty well. And that's a really good run out for the 3-4, really. I mean, the spade is obviously a concern, but a lot of opponents will just barrel their flush draws twice here, so it's not as much of a concern as you might think. So just check, river, take it down, Peter, all day.
I might well value bet here if I'm Peter, probably. It's kind of hard to be beat. Just go like 1,000,000 chips and try and get the ace-high call-off. I think if like king 3, and you can target maybe some like 3x and stuff like that, maybe. 3-4, like...
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little on the thin side, but probably not. honestly, once it goes like there's so much passivity to the river card.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the turn is a big telltale sign. And like I said, this, I don't know. It's as you say, like maybe it's skewed in a way where if you have a bigger high card, it's better or something like that. But interesting spot.
Well, I can't see either of these players folding their hand, and Schman has got the better pair here. Dakar is dominated, does have the power of a Catvatar, and it's a big, powerful cat. Will it have any impact?
Two
The
tens in the
answer
bin. They're pretty gone.
is no. Jack's hold, and Schman, 78, moves into second place on the leaderboard. Nevermore DM from Belarus is still overall chip leader with 33.6 million. And we are down to 50 players already. That's 33 eliminations in the first 40 minutes of day 2.
Fold into the small blind here. Gut shot with the ace-4 offsuit. Maybe the only viable raising candidate, but some big stacks that they're playing into, so folding looks good. 10-6-0. I really like this from the 10-6 offsuit. We speak a lot about wanting to play and how tight you have to play when you're covered, and the opposite is true when you cover your opponent in PKOs. So I think Schman typically wants to play a very raise-heavy strategy from the small blind when they cover the big blind. Very interesting flop too. I like a bet for value with the 10, and of course the open-ended straight draw Jack-8 going to continue in some way. What do you like here, Nick? Call?
With the Jack-8, I think you're just calling because your opponents are going to slow down a bunch as well. I think there's a lot of C-bets that slow down turns. I mean, it's not that dissimilar from the previous pot that we just saw where our opponent took one stab with the ace-queen and then slowed down on the turn and became a lot easier to play. Once they check the turn here, Jack-8, I think you can start bluffing, though. The king of spades is not only an overcard that your opponents are going to be concerned about, but I don't see loads of people ever, like, betting a flush draw on the flop, like, from Schman's position and then slowing down on the turn here, or having king-queen and then slowing down on this turn. So I think Jack-8 might have missed a bet on the turn. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, you can still fold out some queen highs. You're probably close to bottom. So I think betting the turn is very reasonable. You do benefit from getting some folds, maybe with some like ace high, bet the flop, fold. Probably not too much betting, but definitely queen high folds. There is still some showdown value with Jack-8-0.
Sure.
Obviously, Schman going to be opening really wide, as we said, when they cover. So
yeah,
I don't hate a free card, but I think probably bang's okay too.
I think it's a lot cooler if you're in Sol's position there and you have like one spade in your hand. I think obviously now it becomes a lot easier to represent the flush having the blocker, and you have more confident bet turn, bet river situation. So you can bluff the turn and continue bluffing if another spade didn't fall, because your opponents will have lots of queen of spades, ace of spades that they bet the flop, check the turn, call the turn, and then you can still get a lot of those combos to fold too.
So
Big
still
flop
pretty
here
much
for
a
Peter
flip.
as well. Ace queen of spades.
Yeah, domination rotation in bad luck to use favor, but Peter with the nut flush draw and betting 525,000.
It's always interesting as well. Like we're looking at numbers here, 53-47, which is obviously still pretty close to a flip, but actually like player in position way more likely to be able to realize and show down and like get their opponent to fold. So actually there's probably still more of an advantage for Peter. Very interesting check raise with this middling type hand from bad luck to you. I don't think Peter's going anywhere just yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would have found the check raise here, Ben. I mean, ace-9 is just already such a strong hand on this board. I don't know if you necessarily need to sort of protect it that hard. And then obviously put yourself in a lot of weird situations if your opponents do come along, because when you check raise, they'll still call with flush draws and straight draws and stuff like that. And then you're going to be out of position and you're going to face a bluff a lot of the time, regardless of whether or not they've missed those draws.
Yeah, so I think Peter has two options here. Checking back is pretty reasonable because they still beat the bluffs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're bluffing 6-7, 7-8, Jack 10, Queen 10, Queen Jack, these straight draws on the flop. Then ace Queen high is still doing really well.
Yeah.
And I think we'll just see them show down, and they probably expect to win a lot, but ace 9 squeezes some value and a fortunate run out where they can show down a winner.
Have a squeeze.
Trey back in the driver's seat though. Peter wakes up with ace king suited the very next hand. Going to go ahead and raise that one up. Obviously. With coverage, I mean the 10 deuce of hearts is almost definitely 100% going to be a call in my book.
About as miserable as the flop as 10 deuce of hearts can flop though.
Yeah.
Winner, winner.
I see kings, I see nines, and two big stacks here, Schman and Heidegger. As we've established, Schman is currently second in chips overall, chip leader at this particular table. Opens to 770,000, blinds currently being 175,350.
Yeah, and we're obviously now at a stage in the tournament where you're not just playing for chips. I think in some scenarios, if you're just playing for chips, you might see these hands all fly into the middle. Oh, hello. Unexpected. Not necessarily unexpected, but ace-10, the third party, enters the pot.
Yeah, I guess just a snapshot of the table, you see the two pairs and you think those are the hands that are going to get into it. Missing the ace-10 on the button.
Yeah, and I like a 3-bet. I think Schman's got a very wide open. Can definitely mix this in as a call sometimes on the button, as a 3-bet sometimes. Unfortunately for bad luck to you, it's bad luck for them, because even though Schman is opening really wide, they're right at the tippity top with the kings here. And indeed, there's the 4-bet.
All the way to the tippity top. Makes it 5.95 million, and bad luck to you, pal. You're going to have to fold.
Indeed, lays it down. It's one of those as well where in your head, you're worried that you're getting pushed around by the big stack, but you kind of just have to believe people and wait for the aces next hand.
Yeah, and we've got the ace-7 opening, but the real battle is going to be between bad luck to you and Heidegger.
I think we're going to see the 3-bet from aces. I think we've got too many chips behind to try and flat call. And it kind of is nice for them that they just 3-bet folded a hand as well. So the whole table will see that they're capable of having some of those light 3-bets. That's nice.
Yeah. So...
Oh, man.
all in.
Just ripping it.
And obviously this is going to get called. And failing some nastiness, it's going to be a double up for bad luck to you. Straight draw.
Oh.
No. Holds. Doubles up, and we're switching and picking up the action with our friend Biggie, start of day chip leader. This is their new table assignment. Biggie in the top right-hand corner has folded Queen Jack this hand. Instead, it's ID4 who has opened with 9-8 suited.
Again, probably okay. Like I say, a big stack covering most of the players. 8-9 of clubs, or 8-9 suited in general. A decent enough hand to open. Worth remembering as well that the Sunday Million not only changed to a PKO, it also changed to an 8-max tournament.
It did indeed.
So obviously we're playing 7-handed here, so we can get a bit loosier with our opens.
8s and 9s, but 6, 7, 8. That's a straight for Kaziv.
I think the 8-9 might try and go for like a half pot value bet here some of the time. Try and target a 10. Obviously he has the option in being in position to just check back, but we do see that half pot looking for value. Value denied. The straight is good. Worth noting as well, obviously there might be some folks just joining us didn't catch the first start of the stream with the reconnection, but Biggie had all those chips and was playing pretty wildly. 3-betting 5-6-0, called off with Queen 9-0, but their situation's changed a little bit, right? So they've lost a few chips, or they're covered by more players at the table, I guess. So I guess they'll have to tighten up a little bit going forward.
Blinds up to 200,000, 400,000. Hopefully no consequential action for this hand, because I just need to clarify things for poor Philip Vels, who's trying to figure out how the delay works on this stream. Let me explain it to you, Philip. There is no version of the PokerStars software that allows whole cards to be displayed of a hand in progress. So how this works is you're actually watching a reconstruction of the Sunday Million. I'm not trolling, by the way. So a hand is played, a hand history is generated, that hand history is held server-side for 30 minutes. At the end of that 30 minutes, it's then exported, and the hand is effectively replayed in software that looks just like the PokerStars client that you play in. And that's what you're watching right now. So all of the timings, the bet sizes, everything plays as if the hand were happening in real time, but it's based on a hand history that happened 30 minutes ago.
Yes, indeed. And therefore, we can read your chat.
And we can read your chat in real time.
Hello. Yeah, because we're with you in real time.
you're basically seeing the action the same time that we're seeing it. And I think it's important to point out the same time that the players are seeing it. So absolutely, these guys can be watching the stream and checking out the hands that were played 30 minutes ago and getting information from the past that could help inform decisions they make later on. But no one is seeing anything in real time.
It's just, you're basically watching a nicely skinned replayer. But instead of having it on an ugly replayer, we've made it look nice.
I mean, I feel I did a better sales job, but thanks anyway, Ben. Always great to have you here.
We got aces. We got aces versus kings, guys.
We have indeed. Yaves.es makes it 804,000. There is the 3-bet from ID4 with the kings. By Vadimka's got the bond. 7-5 of spades. Not going to play it, though.
It's a little bit big, don't you think, James? Spraggy?
It's a little bit meaty, but actually in a PKO, when you're covered, it's nice to go for meatier sizing because the player with a big stack wants to call you more because they cover you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice little adjustment there, guys.
I
That's
kind of
actually a
like that
very useful
adjustment.
one. Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't matter because it's kings versus aces. You're cool anyway, but good strategy. Good strategy.
And
No, that's actually a fun little tip. I like that.
D4 is eliminated. Yaves, playing from Andorra, is now the chip leader with 33.5 million, pushing Nevermore DM into second place on the leaderboard. I did see a question, by the way, asking how many players are left in real time. Now, bear in mind that everything we talk about, from what's happening at the other tables to how many remain to the cards we're watching, is all on a 30-minute delay. So, obviously, anyone could go into the PokerStars software and watch this in real time, and that would give you access to what I like to call spoilers. Please, let's not ruin the experience we have of following the action in almost real time with the integrity delay. So let's just keep it all in the same time zone. If you know what's happening in real time, don't share that information. Don't go and find that stuff out and post about it in chat, because Tom's there, and Tom will ban you.
That's absolutely fair enough. This is the nuts from Biggie.
Yeah.
Versus top pair of Kaseev, who just lays it down. Look at that. Throws it away. Good fold.
Easy game.
Kaseev is definitely a name I recognize as well. Play with quite a lot. So I think someone who will have good experience, good knowledge, good technical prowess, and very easy as well. They have 27 million. It'd be very easy to get carried away with some top pairs and get stubborn, but looks like they're making some nice laydowns. And I would expect them to do pretty well in this field with this stack.
So pocket sevens for Biggie. Referenced a few times that Biggie was the start of day chip leader. Biggie is currently 13th of 37 players. Around, in fact, just below average right now. Average stack being 14.2 million.
He does already have $2,263 in booties, though. So that's something.
And again, probably a hand here that's feeling pretty miserable about defending in this format. Queen 4 offsuit versus the early position open, lays it down.
Sure.
Just got to be way more disciplined when you're covered and like getting to this stage of the tournament. Like whenever you're playing outside of chips, those ranges from the big blind, it's a big trap to just see min raise and want to call way too much. So just have to be very aware of, you know, the circumstances of defending the big blind.
Do you think sevens ever 3-bet this, Spraggy?
Probably not on the button. I don't
Yeah.
think so. It's just like a little bit too low down to want to 3-bet and call off.
Sure.
Call looks good to me.
Sevens definitely play a lot better than a hand like deuces or trays here as well, right? So
Yeah.
definitely a lot better playability from position. I think I prefer the flat here for sure.
And Biggie with the best of it right now. Biggie an 83% favourite with one card to come.
Yeah, seems like a pretty natural check on the flop. A little bit worried about the ace. Looks like they're going for some value and protection on the turn.
Sure.
Very
And
cool. Biggie wins.
Is going to take us to the break. Apologies for the loss of service during that first session. but we are here hopefully following this through to its conclusion tonight. This week's Sunday Million with 37 players remaining as we go on break. And it is Plantrap from Armenia who has the chip lead at the end of this first session. Plantrap with 37.5 million chips. So let's catch up with Mr. Walsh and Mr. Spragg. And Spraggy, it's you particularly I want to talk to because we've referenced a few times that you were in Nottingham for the UK IPT, which took place at DTD over the last week. Obviously, Joe not with us this evening because he had a comedy gig in Nottingham last night. Were you playing poker or did you get to see Mr. Stapleton make people laugh?
I was playing poker, so I actually missed the show. I was fortunate enough to have brunch with Joe, though, and we sort of ran over some of his material. He was asking me for advice about how a UK audience would respond to certain things, because obviously he's used to performing for an American audience where he has some pretty niche references around some like American brands, and I was trying to explain the idea of Asda price to him and Tesco value, and how that, like, he could rework the joke for the UK crowd and things like that. So I kind of got a flavor of his comedy, but I unfortunately didn't make the show.
Oh, never mind. It's weird because I think when Joe first started doing stand-up seriously, he was UK-based, and so his humour was very much geared towards an English or British audience. And now, of course, he's been stateside for so long and has mainly been pitching his jokes at Americans, and now he has to make that adjustment back again ahead of his run at the Edinburgh Fringe. So we won't have Joe with us on the Sunday Million stream for this week or next week. Tell us about the poker then, Spraggy. How was the UK IPT for you?
Can we stick to the comedy? It was okay. I mean, I cashed the mini main. I came 16th out of 1,059 in the £230 mini main, which is kind of a nice run, but short of where you really want to be. Then I came 70th or 60 something in the main event, so I cashed for about £2,000. I played so then I sort of parlayed that into the £2,200 high roller, where I bluffed all my chips off within the first orbit and then lost a flip, and I lasted about 8 minutes, which is actually quite good for me, lasting 8 minutes. And then keep it clean. And then I played the 1K6 max, which I bubbled. I lost a flip to Will Kasuf, but I did have the joy of 2 minutes of him working out whether he should call or not with 2 jacks, and I had ace king.
Were you tempted at any
nice.
point to channel your inner Griffin?
I honestly, at one point, because Will does this all the time. Obviously, he does his speech of like, "You want me to call? What do you got? I can beat a pair. I can't beat that. What do you got, Spraggy?" I wanted to say to him, I was just like, "Will, I've got ace king. Either like it's gonna be a flip. Just run it. Like I don't really care enough to sit here and listen to 2 minutes of this speech. You know, like do it or don't. I don't have all day." But luckily for him, he called with jacks, and it was like 9, 7, 3, 4, 4 deuce, 5, 6, 4. We're playing the opposite of short deck. I was nowhere near a sweat, nowhere near a pair, and I busted like 5 from the money.
I mean, I appreciate, Ben, that when you've had a bad run, when you haven't had the results, it's hard to take a kind of view of the event more objectively. I guess when I think of a UK IPT, especially at someone like DTD, which is a great venue, great poker club, it's about the general vibe, the general atmosphere, and about the experience, I guess, that people were having. Could you see that people were enjoying themselves who weren't having the run of bad fortune that you were having?
Yeah, I mean, I did okay in the tournaments, and it was really nice because obviously it's probably the most local card room to me and most local UK IPT. There were lots of people there who watched the stream and having a good time, and there was some like lots of people hanging around by the bar and going for food and things like that. There was a go-karting event. That, again, unfortunately, I was playing poker, but it was always at these events since they've restarted. The one in London I went to, and the one here, very nice, like community-driven spirit. So I had a lovely time. I just, obviously, we're poker players. I just wish I'd won every single hand I play.
So basically, had you kind of carved out some times to the go-karting and the comedy, you might have actually had more fun than if you just lost multiple buy-ins at everything you played.
Oh yeah, I mean the events that PokerStars team put on are way more fun than the actual poker. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe I should have busted out sooner so I could have put up some nice lap times.
I mean, I appreciate we've gone kind of out of chronological order because really the World Series obviously became before the UK IPT, but I want to talk to you about Vegas a bit later on this evening. Of course, we have got Barcelona just around the corner. How much of that are you going out for? Because it goes on a while.
I think I'm there for all of it. I think I travel out on the 8th, and I'm there through to the 22nd, because of course with the schedule we have the Estrellas first.
Yeah.
So there's like the 1K main there. There's a couple smaller ones for the sort of Spanish leg of the tour, if you will.
Yeah.
So I'm there for that, and then leading into the EPT proper as well. So yeah, I think
Okay.
a full 2 weeks and playing a lot of cards.
Well, a bit later on, we'll talk to Spraggy about Vegas, and Nick, we can talk about the streaming we're going to be doing from Barcelona later this month. But right now, Mr. Walsh gets a break from the booth as Spraggy and I continue to watch the action at our feature table on day 2 of this week's Sunday Million. Back to table biggie.
Here he is, straight into the big blind.
And has the gut shot. Backdoor clubs working for him as well. Oh, and there is the club draw.
Probably has to continue. And again, probably has to continue. Definitely wants to see the river card. Not sure I would really want to get behind a raise. I think just taking a card, you're going to have some opportunities potentially to bluff rivers. This might be one of them. Maybe feels like the 10 is enough to show down, though. Can be, King 4 of spades, King 6 of spades, hands like this. So it does show down, but does lose.
So where is Kazeev on the leaderboard right now? Kazeev, who's playing from Thailand, is in the top 5, is 5th in chips right now. Yaves, also at this feature table, is 3rd in chips. And as I referenced a few minutes ago, it's a player called Plan Trap from Armenia who leads the final 37 players right now with, coincidentally, 37 million.
Yeah, and that's a dynamic to keep an eye on as well, because we've got... Oh, this is a somewhat aggressive shove from Biggie with the ace deuce. It's going to get through, though, unless Vagrant misclicks or has a moment of madness. But I think that's pretty indicative of what we've seen from Biggie so far. Always seems keen on, certainly pre-flop, keen on the more aggressive action. As I was saying, the 2 big stacks is going to be button versus big blind between Yaves and Kazeev. Again, here the opening range is a product of the stack depth. You can see Mamola with the way better hand, ace 4 suited, but no chips. Yaves with all the chips gets to do all the raising.
And the Dimka folds the 5-3. The only poker tournament I've been anywhere near in recent months, Spraggy, is the True Geordie event at the Hippodrome, the second True Geordie night at the Hippodrome. Obviously, you were at the first one, couldn't make the second one. And did see Finton, however, who made the trip from Dublin to play that event and vlogged his experience. I feel I'm running pretty good with my movie recommendations for Finton. Now, obviously, we famously recommended a film that didn't exist. But since then, I think my targeting's been pretty good. Like, Casablanca, he thoroughly enjoyed. And he said at the True Geordie night, give me another one then. Another, like, classic film that I need to see. The Godfather. He went home and watched it, not that night, but the next night, thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm pretty happy that Finton is enjoying the films that he's missed out on and that I've been recommending for him.
I did see that on his Twitter, yeah, and he was like, maybe I should watch more films. I will say this, James, listen, I don't want to take anything away from you, but when you have a man who's watched 0 films and you have such incredible pieces of cinema, like, The Godfather.
Of course.
But I think you are making good reads, because there's definitely critically acclaimed stuff that wouldn't bring like Finton into the film world. Yes.
That's the thing. I know it's not difficult to recommend some of the greatest films ever made. It is sometimes difficult to target the right person. Like, I wouldn't throw Citizen Kane in his direction, for example. Casablanca.
I was just going to reference that as one that is like always at the top of people's list, but is not where you want to get people into film.
Yeah, it's interesting. The kind of lists that they do of, especially the critics list. Oh, hello. Flush on the river and a pair for Yaves. But when those critics do those lists, and I think it was the Sight and Sound list that they do every 10 years, and Citizen Kane was consistently at the top, as soon as Citizen Kane lost that first place position, it will never regain it. As the years go by, Citizen Kane will just drop down the rankings and other films will move past it. And don't get me wrong, it's a very important film in cinema history and it's a very well-made film. But it's very difficult to put any film on that kind of that pinnacle as the greatest of all time.
I think it's just going to appeal to fewer and fewer people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they've got Jurassic Park Dominion now to compete with.
Yeah, of course. Username 99 asks a good question. With a positive report on The Godfather, how soon would you recommend, say, The Long Good Friday? Immediately. And that is such an awesome movie. And so much of it feels so relevant today. Yeah, that's a film that needs to be recommended to anyone and everyone.
Can I Finton hand you for a minute?
Go on.
Never seen it.
Well, there you go, Benjamin.
There you go.
That's my
one for
recommendation
me.
to you.
Long Good Friday. Okay. I'll put it on my list. So this is the first time we're going to get a little peek at this dynamic we spoke about between Yaves and Kassiv with the big stacks. Because we've ace-4 suited on the button, and then Kassiv with a premium hand that's going to want to put more chips in. So we'll see how willing that Yaves is going to be in terms of sticking around, playing back. Because I think normally this is going to be a call on the button. We do see the 3-bet as expected. So we'll see if Yaves is going to shy away from the big stack encounter or be willing to take it on. They do take it on, and a very clean flop for Kassiv.
Absolutely. This remains a domination situation. And Yaves gets away from this on the flop. Down to 36 players in this week's Sunday Million, having started the day with 83.
I think Yaves is going to have wanted at least a backdoor flush draw there to continue.
Yeah.
Not too disciplined to fold with the ace-high. And again, especially stage of the tournament, etc.
I've only just noticed that Razor Fazor has the Grund avatar, so is clearly a fan of Herr Schneider's.
Yeah, an X-Flix guy. I played with Razor Fazor quite a lot. Been around for a long time. And might well be exercising their right here at 9 big blinds to play for all the biscuits.
Poker biscuits. Yum.
Now this is an interesting one for Yaves as well, because versus the shove, like if there was no one to back behind, I think they'd call. They do call. And Kassiv now getting kind of a nice price in position.
Yeah.
$500 overlaid on the pot. Lets it go though.
Oh, just flops Broadway. No big deal. And that's going to be a double up for Razor Phaser. And we are switching and picking up the action at our other feature table, where we have Heidegger opening with Queen 10. Peter 3-betting with Ace 8 and getting folds.
Nice to see someone making a move with a offsuit middling Ace X from the blinds and getting a fold there.
It sometimes happens.
Must be nice. Must be nice. So raw math on this table, the very clear chip leader with just shy of 38 million. And I think can make argument just to dunk it all in with the sixes.
Yeah.
Pre-flop. Hand doesn't play well, but does okay versus a button open. Gonna just get a lot of folds. There's the shove. There's the win.
And this is an under the gun open from Bad Luck to You, who is one of the biggest stacks right now. 5th overall. What's that flag? Montenegro. Bad Luck to You playing from Montenegro.
Lovely stuff. Beautiful country. So these pairs as well, they get pretty miserable when lots of players cover you. So I think fours might fall into a fold category, just because people are going to call you wider. People are going to play against you wider because they cover for the bounty. And obviously, a hand like fours becomes trickier and trickier to play, especially from early position when you're going to be out of position a lot. And this is definitely the sort of board that you're going to expect a lot of the time, and kind of just very limited options. Probably proven by gut shots use of the time bank. This is kind of very uncomfortable way to proceed. They might just be able to get this through though, James.
1.2 into 2.95. Well, pair of 9 sticking around for at least one more street, and that doesn't change anything. And I wonder if Gutshot tries again or shuts down. Action has been checked to the pair of 4s.
So Gutshot still has a lot of strong hands here, and actually pocket 4s might be one that considers balancing out those strong hands as being the bluff, just because their range isn't that wide. But this is the problem, right? Like even if you like have a hand that you might be able to get to fold, it's so hard to pull the trigger down multiple streets.
Yes.
It's very unplayable. It's just very tough.
And bad luck to you improving to 2 pair on a straighty board on the river. Makes the value bet, does not get a call. Blinds up to 250,000, 500,000. The price of poker is going up, Vincent.
And going up at a time when Rory Jennings has sent a raiding party. Thank you very much, Rory.
A viewer dump.
I think I'll be seeing Rory next week, maybe for a showdown in London. Who knows? A viewer dump indeed. Welcome in. I'd love to see those flamingos in the chat. So Jack 5 here in the big blind does cover the button open, and it is a min raise. I think some of these hands are going to be really sensitive to sizing. So versus 2.2, probably folding, versus min raise, probably calling.
Heidegger, slow down. What are you doing? I guess it could work.
Yeah, I kind of like it. Decent board for them to, you know, they're going to defend versus min raise. They still have a lot of 4x. Going to put Solij in some awkward situations. This is definitely one of those awkward situations.
Isn't Solij Beyonce's sister?
Solange?
That's the one.
Maybe. And to be honest, James, even if true, unlikely to be the real sister of Beyonce Knowles here on the button. But listen, we don't know. You never know who you're going to run into on PokerStars.com.
It's true.
If Heidegger rips this river, I have a new hero. A new I'm rooting for you to win the tournament type operator. It's very tempting because it's clearly still some ace high in the range. They do give up.
Yeah. And ace high wins it for Solij.
This is definitely something we see more and more of, is even at, what are we dealing with, like 15 big blinds, sub 15 big blind stacks? People just maneuvering around for 2 or 3 big blind raises and really applying pressure. Even, you know, let's say 5 or 6 years ago even, we're looking at very heavy push fold situations, less than 15 blinds. But these MTT guys, there's playing around with short stacks more and more these days. They'll 1 big blinds here, 2 big blinds there. And it can be very effective.
Well, we've got a lot of strawberries here. King, Queen for bad luck to you, who opens to just over a milli. Heidegger is pretty short stack right now and has ace jack of hearts. And that is an all-in.
All in. And a $1,200 bounty, which is one of the bigger ones, right? So bad luck to you is going to call with that bigger overlay.
And
it's a 10.
That is trip queens for bad luck to you. And bad luck to Heidegger, who is KO'd, taking us down to 33. I haven't referenced the payouts for a while. Everyone is now getting paid $663. The next money jump will be when we are down to 31 players. Of course, as ever, the big sums are reserved for the players who make the final table, and those payouts are displayed on your screen.
Yeah, runner there. Never nice way to go. Bad luck to you indeed. And bad luck to you up to 40 million.
Yeah.
And new player at the table actually covers them to their left. 43 million for
that
atheist.
Is the chip leader, Spraggy. So we've got Bat. In fact, right now we've got the players who are 1, 2, and 3 in chips. So Atheist 66666 is number 1. Royal Math is number 2. Bad luck to you is number 3. 3 biggest stacks in the Sunday Million, all at the same table.
Yeah, really interesting distribution. Be keen to see who sort of takes charge of the table, if you will. And of course, in a PKO, even just covering by a couple million, right? That's so important. So, and especially Atheist has direct position on bad luck 2 to their right. So it's kind of on Atheist to feel happy about playing the loosest style at the table. Liking this shove with the 6s.
Yeah, still plenty of short stacks out there. Average right now is 17.5 million. A reminder, blinds are 250,000, 500,000. We'll stay at that level for another 9 minutes.
Interestingly, King 6 suited is certainly a hand that if someone's really sort of throwing their weight around, might come into an open range. Atheist takes it off, leaves it to the 10-9 suited of Raw Math to take it down. And Raw Math picking up the Ace-King the very next hand.
With all the time you've been away from home, Ben, what's happening with the cats?
My mum lives not too far away, and she loves my cat maybe more than anyone.
I think you were saying maybe more than her son.
Well, maybe because I'm leaving her to look after the cat all the time. I might be in the bad books, but the cat is definitely not. So Olaf is here and taken care of, and Billy's still coming around. So those guys are good. Shout out to my mum, of course. Shout out to top 2 for Raw Math. Easy game.
Of course, I have to remember one of the cats doesn't actually belong to you.
His heart belongs to me, and mine to his. But yeah, in a legal sense, no.
Aces and kings win that. Apologies, we've reached that point in the evening where James Bond comes up in the conversation. I'll keep it brief. I just want to address Donna Chap's question. Guys, I was saying I like the Horowitz Bond novels. Have you read the Boyd or Diva ones, James? Any good? I've read both. Now, the slight irony is William Boyd is one of my favourite novelists, and yet I don't like William Boyd's Bond novel, Solo. I thought it was bland. The Jeffrey Diva book, Carte Blanche, is brilliant. And what Jeffrey Diva does is similar to what the movies did with Casino Royale, where they basically reboot, bring Bond into the modern era, and have him as a contemporary secret agent rather than someone who was around in the 50s and 60s. It's really good. There you go. That's your Bond discussion for this week. So,
who's your man who originally wrote James Bond?
Ian Fleming.
I do know. Ian Fleming. That's right. So, the intellectual property is now passed for other people to use?
The Ian
specific
Fleming
authors
estate,
who've been chosen?
The Ian Fleming estate wanted to continue the Bond novels after his death. In the 1960s, they decided to create a pseudonym, Robert Markham, and the idea was that a series of famous novelists would write a Bond book under that pseudonym. But it only happened once. Kingsley Amis wrote a continuation novel called Colonel's Son that was published in the late 60s as Robert Markham. And then nothing happened for 13 years. And then a novelist called John Gardner was approached by the estate to take over. And he wrote a series of books through the 80s and 90s. Raymond Benson then took over. And in recent years, they've been getting quite high-profile novelists to either do one or a couple of books. So Sebastian Faulks, William Boyd, Jeffrey Diva, and most recently Anthony Horowitz, who's written He's written a mini trilogy of Bond books. So yes,
gotcha.
The novels have still been going post-Fleming.
Okay, that's your Bond. Thank you. Thank you.
Blame him, by the way. I said it was over. No. He asked the follow-up question. It's his fault, not mine.
James tried to draw a line, but it's interesting though. Interesting. And this is interesting too, because we got 2 of the big stacks clashing, butting heads for the first time in a bet from Ace-8. Slightly on the larger sizing, I guess. Just over half pot. And it does force a fold from a pair of 6s, which is exactly what that bet really wants to do, or aims to do. And we might see some action here as well. Very quick raise, very quick 3 bets from Atheist.
I think you'll find it's Atheist 6666666.
You got it. And a rather devilish 2.5 million. Which, again, I think most players preference 3-bet folding ace queen off here. In position. It is kind of a smaller sizing. And we spoke about going bigger when you cover in a PKO, and ATS does cover ever so slightly, but still very important that they do for the bounty considerations. And a board where I expect them to do a lot of betting. They're sort of saying that they have ace-king, sometimes king-queen, obviously kings and aces, big pairs. Bad luck to you. Might want to stick around with one, might not. I think having a spade is kind of important.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Just want to correct something that Omar Skins has said. Cats are community property even if they have an owner. No. Cats don't have owners, full stop. A cat chooses to live with you. A cat chooses what it wants to do and which human being it wishes to exploit. That's how cats work, and that's why they're awesome. Because, as I've said before, a cat will walk into a room and give you a look that just exudes nothing but contempt, and you will love them for it. How awesome a creature is that?
And that's really, you nail on the head. That's what a cat is all about. And obviously I hear a lot of people who don't like cats sort of circle that as a negative in that they don't show enough affection. But that's why they're so lovable, I think. For me, at least.
Absolutely.
Like, I know it's because there's no pretense, right? I feel like a dog pretends to love its owner to get food. You know where you are with a cat. You know that the cat doesn't really like you. You know the cat is only there for food. I know that Billy comes in here and shouts at me to put food down. That's it. And if he eats, he leaves.
There's something some people say dogs are very needy. I think the loyalty of a dog and the relationship it develops with its owner is really sweet. And I have a lot of time for dogs as well. But the fact that a cat just like, as I said, treats its owner horribly and yet still is adored. As someone said, the Egyptians used to worship cats as gods, and cats have never forgotten this.
I love that line. And I love this hand for ex-Cyclo with unfortunate little blocker there to the 9 of clubs. But they do have the straight draw and the flush draw. They'll be continuing. And bad luck to you with just the lead out of the big blind, by the way, which is really interesting on this sort of middling board. And probably have more fours than their opponent, even if they're choosing to lead some fours. Maybe something like 4-6, 4-5 might lead. Let's see if they can continue this bluff line. They do. Cyclo still with a lot of outs. Calls again. River's a brick. Bad luck to you doesn't know they actually have the best hand.
Yeah.
But really unlikely they have the best hand very often.
So has to bluff at this?
So maybe continues to try and fold out something like ace-3 of clubs. Because it's a disaster for bad luck to you if it goes check-check and they lose to ace-high. Which does happen sometimes. Okay, so now Cyclo gets here with jack-high, has to bluff. Because never wins. Does check, does lose to king-high. And that was a pot that was really very bizarre line with the lead. And very much there for the taking for Cyclo. It's a little bit awkward to bluff with the hand that they have. Because they do block sort of what they want to fold out. But also, sometimes you just got to think, I'm at the river with jack-high. And I've still got a lot of really good hands. I probably just need to be all in.
Whilst we're talking about cats, Spraggy, I think this is one of the biggest US-UK divides. Bugcatcher19 says black cats are bad luck. In the UK, a black cat is good luck, and in America, a black cat is bad luck. And I don't know how they became reversed.
Is that true?
I think it's the adage of a black cat crossing your path. I think in one country it's lucky, and in another country it's unlucky.
Right. Well,
I mean,
I had
it's all crap.
I had
so
a
it
black
doesn't
cat
really
in the front
matter.
room the other day. Oh yeah, it all means absolutely nothing. So it doesn't matter. Just an interesting shift. I was gonna say I had obviously Billy comes in the house and Olaf lives here.
Yeah.
There was a black cat sat on the sofa the other day. I turned around, he was just sat on the sofa, came in through the window.
That's amazing.
And I've still been running terribly, so whatever the cat's supposed to have done, it hasn't done it.
I mean, there is no such thing as a bad luck cat. It just doesn't exist.
No. Or bad luck, anything, I guess. What about this for a pot, though?
Yeah.
11.5 million and a pair of aces on the turn and a big draw for bad luck 2, which bricks out.
18.9 million, and yeah, pair of aces still good. Straight draw and flush draw on the turn, but bad luck.
There's still so many hands that they can get to fold by the river, and they have 10 high. I I don't think they'll enjoy having clubs because they certainly want to fold out some backdoor clubs. So it might be a combination they give up. They do check, and there is a value bet from Atheist of just a third, which is kind of saying, I have the exact hand I have.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like a weaker ace or just like a one-pair hand in general.
That is a pretty big pot, and that is the chip lead for Atheist once again, 56.8 million. Players from Belarus sitting in first and second on the leaderboard right now. Atheist in number 1 position, Nevermore DM in second position with 50 million. And we have 25 players remaining. We are very close to the final 3 tables, 1 elimination away from being at 3 tables.
We do have an all-in and a call here. Any chop opportunities? High cards? Low card? 6 plays.
How?
8 king.
How?
3, 9, 5 is the loser. Double up for gut shot. Yeah, one of those where you expect with the ace-3 that you're going to get out of jail somehow, but very low river card. And the 6 plays. Full double.
QB for Trolls says, James, who is the handsome young lad you have with you today? Nick Walsh is in for Joe Stapleton this week, and we've got Spraggy on the stream as well.
I'm here too. Thought there must have been someone behind me. So Atheist again with the most. Although anything could happen here. Let's not jump the gun because Solage with kind of a short stack. 12 big blinds, 13 big blinds. Ace-3 of diamonds passes. Atheist with a king jack and gut shot on the button with the Paul Daniels, James.
Yes. Ooh, magic. I hate king jack.
Well.
I literally hate king jack. That's the right thing to do with king jack.
Wow, folded in the cutoff with the big stack. That's very tight. And as I spoke about the dynamic before of like who's got the biggest stack, who's going to be playing the most opens, folding king jack off in the cutoff is really tight. That's absurdly tight. Queen jack suited with the reshove is going to get called. It's a fake flip.
Racing and queens are good. The 10s do not improve. Barry Greenstein makes no difference. And Gutshot 19 is eliminated. And that means we are now down to 23. So we've seen 2 bust outs. We are at the final 3 tables in this week's Sunday Million. Everyone's now locked up $1,200 plus the bounties they have won over the course of the last 2 days.
Yeah, so I mean, king jack is what, like top 15% of hands or something in the cutoff when you cover everybody. So that kind of says to me that Atheists can be playing really tight, but then they bet 2/3 with no hearts on the 10-9-5. See if they're blasting off here. Huge flop for Bayesian.
It's amazing for Bayesian because you flopped it, and Atheist is just doing the work for you. Check, bet. Okay, that kind of kills your action a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit rough. Obviously, sometimes your hand is no longer good.
Scratch that.
Wow, all in. Snippety snap. Full double.
Bayesian gets the double up, and we are switching. And we've got Peter all in with kings against Pede's ace-queen, and bad news for Peter. Oh, gets there on the river. Full house. And Peter doubles up and survives, gets the horseshoe. So plan trap
gets the horseshoe for holding with by far the best hand, by the way.
Yeah, but
carry on.
But you know, it was dramatic.
I see where they're coming from.
It was
kind
dramatic.
of reversal of justice. Yeah.
Plan Trap was one-time chip leader. It's currently 3rd in chips, but you'll notice that Plan Trap has the red target right now. Plan Trap, the single biggest bounty available, $2,362. Biggest stack at this table is Plan Traps. That bounty not in play right now.
Yep, and without air in the small blind is a old poker friend of mine who's actually a former Sunday Million winner themselves. Yeah. I think won the Sunday Million core, I want to say 8 years ago, maybe more. So I've been around a long time, still playing, still grinding those Sunday Million tournaments.
I'm hearing that.
And unfortunately, 3 big blinds deep.
I'm hearing that Jordan Sparks song in my head. How am I supposed to breathe with no air?
No air, no air.
That's the one. Biggie's still alive, by the way. Hope you noticed, guys. Biggie is at this table with just shy of 30 million chips. Start of day chip leader, still going strong.
And his Herr Schneider's friend, the ace-7 suited defending, not flopping very well against Havana's top pair, top kicker.
Indeed. Razor Fazor, part of the Grund gang.
Expect to see a bet. Oh, just a little 660k enticing. As well it might be with such a strong hand with the backdoor flush draw as well. Razor Phaser does not take the bait.
So here's a question. When Xflix came up with this branding, was he aware of the dating app, which has a very similar name?
I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I think it's more egregious that he just chose to forsake vowels. You know, just like, I don't know why we can't. It's not really grind. It's just like, am I supposed to say grind? Because I always just say grind. I was just say like grind.
As I said, I'd rather facetiously insist on calling it Grund because of the absence
yeah,
of vowels.
as you should. He left the vowel out. He reaps what he sows, James. Is all in without air.
On countdown,
Called
you don't
by the
get to
Grund.
spell out words without vowels. You have to have the vowels and the consonants.
Exactly. You can't want to just give it to me anyway.
Oh, Biggie makes it bigger.
Razor Phase is not going to like this. In for cheap for that bounty for a couple blinds, but I think this is a bridge too far.
And without air is KO'd. Chips go to Biggie. Bounty goes to Biggie. Without air cashing out in 23rd place for $1,200 and just shy of $900 in bounties.
Very disappointing place to finish. I guess once you get this far, you're now starting to eye up the top of the field. But without air, won a Sunday Million 8 years ago. Like, is that not enough? I feel the same way, you know, when Chris Moneymakers, I saw him at the World Series of Poker complaining about busting the tournament or something. It's like 20 years later, he's still, you've had your fill, you know?
It's a well worn out story, but I love it. The 2006 World Series of Poker. So bear in mind, Joe Hashim was the main event champion in 2005. Bested a 4-figure field, won I think $7.5 million. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. And the very next year can be heard in an all-in situation shouting, "Come on, dealer, let me get lucky just for once."
Oh, dear, oh dear. Poker players, eh? We're the best. We're the best. When will it end? This is an interesting application of pressure from Havana with the Jack-10 offsuit. Does get a fold. Just goes to show a real, you know, everybody approaches this game with a different style, different way to go forward. And we saw a very big stack, open fold King Jack off in the cutoff, and then Havana with sort of 20-something blinds, low 20 big blinds, chooses to 3-bet a stack that covers them in a PKO. And, you know, even at this stage of the tournament, even at this stage in tournament poker, people are still doing what they want to do, doing what they feel they want to do, and living and dying by it.
A7 against King 4, a pair of 4s for plan trap, but the ace-high flush draw for Pede, who is a statistical favourite here with 2 cards to come.
I think any sort of bet is okay. Might even get a fold from this non-spade hand. Very nice. Pede picks it up.
Now, I have to press a very important button, Mr. Spragg, because
Oh my
there is
goodness,
a game
is it a
for
scary button?
PokerStars players, which they are now able to register for. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are once again awarding Sunday Million tickets and Sunday Million satellite tickets in a free roll if you are a PokerStars player. And again, would issue the caveat that it's not available in all markets. If you can't find the free roll in the lobby, chances are you are not eligible. But if you do see it and you want to register, the password is final9, or one word, and it's on your screen right now if you want to write it down or type it in. And this is bad news for Plan Trap. Top pair against a set. Oh, trips against a full house. I think I'm going to vomit in my mouth.
This could be the biggest part of the day, James. Obviously, you've got that added blind v blind dynamic where ranges are the widest, players are the most aggressive. Everybody's going to be pushing people around with not much in their hand. But here we see very strong hand versus very strong hand. Kassiv just calling down. No respite there. No 10, no deuce. Plan Trap has good trips, though, and might just get greedy and try and play for it all. We'll see. Goes for the check.
Do it. Do it. Overbet. 20.9 into 15.5.
I think he kind of has to be.
No, go small. And I tell you what, Plan Trap got lucky there. Plan Trap lost not the minimum, but a lot less than they could have done.
Yeah, really interesting that just went check, call, small bet at the river. Maybe some spidey senses coming out of Plan Trap. I don't think so, though. I feel like they're just expecting to win a lot. You know, I'm very surprised that we don't get more than 5 million chips apiece in at the river. I certainly would be tempted versus a 5 million chip bet to try and get greedy and stack a king 7 or something like that still. I don't know. Very surprised to see such a slowdown in action.
And I guess we're always biased when we can see both hands and we can say, well, Kassiv missed value on the river. And I guess looking at it from the other point of view, you can say that with facing that small bet on the river, Plan Trap could have raised, as you just said, Spraggy. But again, always easier when analysed from the sidelines when you have the advantage of all of the card information.
Absolutely. And, you know, and also worth noting with the massive stack versus massive stack with 22 left. So both players are naturally going to be trepidatious about investing a lot against each other. There's a lot of players here, like Razor Phasers Hill has like 7 million. There's a lot of short stacks that are going to be busting soon enough. So, like, it's never going to be that bad to just ease off a little bit and be a little bit more aware of your tournament life.
Yes, yes. Now, if you are asking what the password is, you really need to look harder. But if you're asking why you can't find the tournament, you probably need to think about where you are in the world, because bear in mind the free roll is not available to everyone. For example, if you are in France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, if you're playing on one of our American platforms in Pennsylvania, Michigan, or New Jersey, if you're playing in Ontario, these are all places where you will not be able to play the free roll. And obviously, if you're somewhere in the world that doesn't offer
between these two.
PokerStars real money, of course you're not going to be able to find the free roll.
Kassiv wins again, this time with the Queen High. It's all going Kassiv's way at the moment. Big chip lead now over the table. They're very close to Plan Trap a few hands ago, but up to 46 million, Plan Trap at 25. Biggie still on 33. Biggie not afraid to use the stack aggressively, shall we say.
Yeah, Jelly Bean, be careful. Don't make accusations like that without evidence. Biggie up to 34.5. Biggie top 6 right now.
Yeah, and at the top of the show, we said about how it's a little bit rarer in the PKO since we changed the format for those day 2 big stacks to make the final table. But Biggie's geared up for a nice run here, just 22 left. And it's very much on Kassiv now to run the table, if you will. And the closer we get down to a final table situation, the more people that are eliminated, those big pay jumps start to get more impactful, and we'll see Kassiv be able to dominate and push people out.
It's the blind level I refuse to acknowledge. 350,000, 700,000.
This isn't for you just because of the maths, or we should just be going 4-8?
300, 600, 400, 800. That's how it should work. 357 is not a thing.
Let's see with top pair checking back. A little bit of deception. I wonder if Peter decides the turn is good enough for them to want to bet. Probably with some hands. Ace-side can still win at some showdowns, though. Although it might be hard to get there. But their consideration is just not to bluff everything. Because, obviously, sometimes, as we see, Kasiv's going to check back a 10. So if you start bluffing everything, those checkbacks just make loads of chips.
Stoev, just to answer your question. Bear in mind this is a free roll awarding Sunday Million tickets. There's no point running that free roll in any market where there isn't a Sunday Million, right? Because otherwise you'd be winning a ticket for something you can't play. So on top of that, there are certain countries where you're not allowed to give away tickets. So that's why certain places have to be excluded. It's not because we're just picking our favourites. But the UK, I believe, is one of the markets you should be able to play the free roll.
Listen, if it was up to me, I would 100% make spiteful decisions. I'd be like, you're not getting a ticket because just out of spite. You're not getting a ticket out of spite. But PokerStars, they love you all equally, but their hands are tied, right? It's always like we can't. It's not just like, let's try and piss some people off. If they could, they would, but they can't. Like I said, if it were up to me, I would just disqualify all of you. If it were up to me, you guys would be getting nothing.
I was going to say, if it were Spraggy, there wouldn't be a free roll.
You'd be giving me tickets.
Yeah. I should stress that this game does not have an insignificant prize pool. Top 100 finishers get a ticket to the Sunday Million. And then the 250 after that get $11 Road to Sunday Million tickets. So it's a sizable amount of money.
And then also, I think if you bust this Road to Sunday Million, you don't get a ticket, or maybe it's a direct satellite. If you bust a direct satellite, you also get put into the second chance draw or something as well. Maybe that doesn't apply to the Road to Sunday Million because it's kind of a hybrid satellite.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's always ways to get into Sunday Million if you watch these streams, and you don't have the $109. Obviously, free rolls and road to free rolls and second chances and stuff. There's a lot of new stuff going on with the new format of the Sunday Million, so you got to keep your eyes peeled for it.
I like the Road to Sunday Million idea. I like the hybrid sats. I think it's a really neat concept.
Agreed. And I think getting aces with a big stack deep in the Sunday Million is a nice concept too. Biggie does have the luxury of the aces, but unfortunately unlikely to get action unless Razor Phase is feeling really ready to go. 9-3 off, very miserable.
Ace Queen opening here. 21 players remaining. That's 3 tables of 7 right now. We'll have our final 2 tables when we're down to 16. Final table of 9. Playing down to a winner tonight. The Sunday Million being a 2-day event. Started yesterday, will conclude today.
Biggie, they're folding King 7 off in the big blind, even with the bigger stack. Certainly, maybe a little bit of a tighter Biggie than we saw 30 players ago. As we're really getting down to it, maybe Biggie tighten up a little bit, which is probably the correct way to play to a point. And Havana with the King Queen. Could go either way. We definitely saw Havana take the more aggressive option with the Jack 10 off. So I'm not surprised to see them rip King Queen. They will get the ace-side of Kastiv to fold.
And I hadn't checked in the lobby for a while, Spraggy. There is a new chip leader, by the way. Ivan Lemera is number 1 right now, playing 68 million. Kaziv, who's at this table, is the second biggest stack with 50 million. So a sizable advantage right now for Ivan, representing the country of Brazil.
That's a name I recognize too, Ivan Lemera. I definitely played with that player somewhat frequently, which again, similarly to Kasiv, when you have players of some pedigree with big stacks at this stage in the Sunday Million, you can really expect those stacks to increase and really start to pull away, because obviously 10,000 players, you're going to have some people who've got here pretty inexperienced, or going to freeze up with the money, or not used to making decisions in what is a very high pressure situation. But Ivan Lemera, definitely a name I recognize, and you can expect them to, use their stack appropriately. Is what I'm trying to say. So Peter takes the lead on the flop. Havana's hand still good a decent amount of the time versus big blind. And I think it was Peter we saw raise the ace-9 before on king-9 something. So maybe they treat this hand similarly. Maybe they're going to call. I definitely think they'll continue.
Yeah. Ace on the turn. Peter still ahead. Near enough 96% favourite. By the way, that free roll has started, but there's late registration open for another 9 minutes, so we'll keep that password on screen for anyone who wants it.
And again, kind of a miserable run out for both players. Some of Havana's bluffs are going to improve to a pair or even a straight still. They can show down maybe versus a 5. But it's definitely getting to the point where 6s doesn't really win that often versus a check. So I wonder if they choose to bluff. They do not. And the 9 is the winner.
It is indeed. So we've got King Jack suited for Biggie. King Jack offsuit for Peter. Pede on the button with the Grafton. 10-9 suited.
Yeah, all sort of playable stuff. Could go either way. I think Pede most of the time will want to call. When covered at this stage of the tournament, they do want to be a little bit tighter. But being on the button is obviously really, really nice for them. And it's not like they're super short. They maybe could get away with a peel. I don't hate a fold, though. It looks like a really easy call, take a flop. But 20 left, stack that covers you.
Okay, well...
And this is interesting, James. Same hand.
Yes, and Biggie free rolling with the backdoor flush draw. And there is the prospect that we are going to have our first performance of the evening.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I mean, that's great.
Be so Grafton-esque.
So Peter can continue with the check raise here. It's going to be one of their strongest hands. They're probably going to 3-bet queens plus, 10s plus. So, yeah, King Jack can drive in some value from, Jack 8 suited. Biggie's probably opening Jack 9, Ace 10, King 10, Queen 10, King Queen.
Here we go. Here we go.
That's if it gets to showdown, of course.
It's getting to showdown. I can feel it in the waters.
I think there's still value for Peter on the turn as well. We're going to mix in a check.
All I ask is for effort.
Bear in mind, I want to get ahead of this. I want to get ahead of it early. The internet and the way this broadcast is done, it doesn't owe itself perfectly to syncing up. Okay?
It doesn't.
So
I will. The cue is, you know what they say, and I will take a beat, and hopefully we will be in sync. I hear what the audience hears, so I will know if we nailed it or not.
Okay. Will somebody please fold the chop? I beg.
Check to showdown.
It might just go check.
Benjamin, this is a chop pot, and you know what they say? Everyone loves a chop pot.
A chop pot.
The delay was longer than I thought it was. That was terrible. But all I asked for was effort.
Was I ahead of you?
You were behind me. But crucially, you tried. And that's what matters.
I did try. And what's disappointing in the chat is no one's appreciating my effort. My mum once said to me, do your best in everything you do. That's really what it's all about. And I look at the chat. I explained about the delay. I explained that there was a sync problem, and I'm getting 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 1.5.
To be honest with you,
at this point, it's on them, James.
It is, but also
having to go at me for that.
kind of did you dirty there. I should have waited for you. It was my mistake, not yours. But also, do you remember on the old school report card where you get like a grade for achievement, but also a number for effort? Now, guys, you need to get rid of the performance ratings and start scoring us on the effort, which I think we have to agree is a solid 9 or 10.
Yeah, so the way that used to happen at my school was you'd get A to F for effort, and then 1 to 10. So you'd get like a B7 or an ace. Right. A10 was obviously the best you could get. Like you tried really hard, you did great. The only place where there was a massive discrepancy between my grades was in art, where I would get like an A3 all the
Oh,
time,
wow.
or like an A4, which was, we know you're trying, but what you've drawn here is terrible. You know, or like, because I wasn't a drawer, I wasn't an artist.
Hang on.
So
But you said, but the A is for achievement, though, right?
No. A is for the A to F on effort. A to F on effort, and then 1 to 10 on like
right, got
quality
it.
of work.
Sorry, my
So
school was
most
the
of the
other.
time it was like,
So my school was the other way round.
Yeah.
So you'd get the letter grade for achievement, the numerical score for effort, but also the numerical score worked the other way round. So maximum effort was a 1, minimal effort was a 5. So A1 was the
Right,
best.
okay.
A1 was achievement grade A plus maximum effort 1. A1 was the best you could have. So that's why I'm confused by your A3, but now it makes sense as you explained it.
and for most other subjects, you'd get like a B7, a B8, an A8, whatever, right? Like
Right.
that was like good work.
Yeah.
But my art teacher was like, I know you're not trying, but you can barely hold a pencil.
Isn't it great, by the way, that the English school system has such inconsistencies of how it grades people?
Yeah, I mean, and also, isn't it great that every single thing you do is graded in front of 25 other kids publicly, and just kids are the worst, and just, you know, bully relentlessly and are vile human beings.
We are at 18 players right now. We are 2 eliminations away from being down to the final 2 tables. And we've seen a couple of bust outs in the last couple of orbits. We've got ace-8 all in here. Havana against the ace-king of Kaziv. An 8 on the flop, an 8 on the turn. And that is trips for Havana. Domination, rotation, and they survive.
Yeah, and that was the first time we've seen Havana's more likely to take the more aggressive option style really cause them some problems. But winning your all-ins, there's always a way to get out of jail.
Yeah.
Trip 8s is a good way to do it, and now Havana up to 30 million, but they're coming out firing again with this 3-bet. I actually really like it. I like 3-betting ace and off more than I like calling it. Definitely want to be on the lighter side here sometimes versus a wide open.
This is one of those evenings when I'm quite glad that Mr. Benja is not with us, because all I can think about every time I say Havana's name is the song, and I know that I can't sing that song. I mean, I can't sing, but also I'm not supposed to even try and interpret that song, whereas Griffin will be going for it. I mean, not just single notes, not even just a full bar. He'd be doing
The whole rendition,
verses and choruses.
full karaoke.
Yeah, yeah.
I know the song and I have the tune like going in my head.
Yes, exactly. Every
But,
time.
Also, what book did I read? Our Man in Havana by Graham Greene.
Yes.
You read that book?
Yes, very good book.
There you go. Very enjoyable read for anyone. Not too long either, from memory. Interesting hand here. 9.3 million in the middle. Ace 5 off against 5-3 suited. Peter does have backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw, but kind of a lot of hands have backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw. I think like 9-10 suited. 3-5 would be very adventurous, and the ace 5 is going to take it.
Aces again, this time for Biggie. Havana with 7s.
Oh, this could get interesting, especially with the way Havana has been playing. Look at that limp. So I think I kind of like a limp. Just because Havana is taking aggressive options, I think we'll be isolating appropriately. The problem is, they're still a little bit deep in terms of being able to limp shove, and I think a limp 3-bet is probably under-bluffed. Like, not many people find an appropriate limp 3-bet here. So it kind of skews towards strong hands.
Yeah.
So you are giving Havana a chance to get away some of the time. Now, Havana has been, or showed a great willingness to put chips in the middle. So blind versus blind. Maybe we see them do something with 7s. And I don't think it would be completely horrible to do that. Obviously, again, benefit of cards up. We can see it's a big cooler, 2 big pairs, but blind versus blind. I don't think Havana wants to fold just yet. What I'd really like to see from Biggie here is just a really small bet. Really small bet. Like maybe even 10%. Just to try and keep Havana's range as wide as possible. Even, like, this is fine. You could even go smaller, but I think a small bet, you're not really afraid of anything. Even tens is a little bit, benefits from folding out queen jack suited or something. Aces never really worries, so I like small sizings. Havana does lay down the sevens and a nice pot for Biggie.
And that is going to take us to the second break of the day. And 18 players remaining in the Sunday Million. 83 coming into day two. 10,507 total entries, generating a prize pool of more than $1 million this week, with 54.5k up top, plus, of course, bounties as well. 5-minute break for all the players, so action resuming inside of 5 minutes. We'll get back to the tables and we'll continue to follow the race to the final table, and we'll watch them play at the final table. Every single hand cards up until we have a winner. Let's get Nick Walsh back into the mix. And I did say we would talk a little bit more about Barcelona, guys. Nick, once again, just as you were in Prague, just as you were in Monte Carlo, going to be part of the stream team for Barcelona. Don't know whether anyone's warned you. We're doing 8 consecutive days from Barcelona.
Yeah, I haven't had that conversation yet, but I'm here for it. You guys know how much I love my job. That's a lot of days in a row. That's a lot more than we've done thus far. So that'll be quite the trip, yeah.
Oh, well, you mentioned earlier on, Spraggy, that we've got the Estrellas Poker Tour, which acts as the kind of prelim to the EPT. So Estrellas is the local Spanish tour, and there is an Estrellas festival at the front end of the EPT. Now, that Estrellas main event, which I think is a 1K buy-in, normally has a massive, massive field, sometimes upwards of 4,000 entries. We are going to start our coverage by streaming the final table of that event, and that is going to be on Sunday, the 14th of August. So what's that? 2 weeks away? That's when we're going to kick off Barcelona streaming. The first day of streaming will be that Estrellas final table. And then along the way, we've got a couple of special events planned. More details on those when we get closer to the time. We are going to have the Super High Roller final table. And I remember when the Super High Roller in Barcelona was a 50k buy-in. It is a 100k this year. So we'll watch that play down to a winner. And then we'll have the EPT main. And again, this is going to be a huge event. It's going to be a massive field. It always is in Barcelona. And we will stream the final 5 days through the bubble, the race to the final table, concluding everything on Sunday the 21st. So from Sunday the 14th to Sunday the 21st inclusive, 8 days of streaming from what is sure to be a big festival. The last time we were in Barcelona was 2019. That was big enough, Spraggy. With that 3-year absence and everyone so keen to play live poker again, heaven knows how big this one's going to be.
I think it's going to be massive, and what a time to be a poker player, poker fan. 8 days of streaming as well. I'm very excited because, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, I'm going to be there from the 8th through to the 22nd, so I'm going to be playing all the Estrellas events. I'm going to be playing all the EPT mains. I'm thinking about it, but I'm probably going to skip the 100k, James. Unless between now and then someone wants to give me 100,000 euros, which they're very welcome to do.
Benjamin,
but I hopefully will make an appearance at some point.
We remember very clearly what happened in the Bahamas that year. Hashtag never forget. And you understood how wrong it was to play beyond your bankroll. You got a little bit cocky, having scraped into the money in the PSPC, and you should have learnt your lesson. I know that was 3.5 years ago, but please don't make that mistake again. So steer clear of the 100k.
I'm a new man. I'm reformed. What I did was wrong, and it took a long time to get back to where I am. I'm not going to make the same mistake.
I'm glad to hear it. So obviously, Nick, you're going to be part of the team. Griffin's coming to Barcelona. Maria's coming to Barcelona. So we've got the gang back together, all in the same place for once. No dodgy internet connections to have to worry about. No attempts to synchronize the Chop Pot song. In a bizarre way, I am looking forward to it. I'm also kind of like slightly dreading it because we know the days are going to be intense, the days are going to be long. But again, the novelty of having the EPT back, the novelty of having live poker back hasn't worn off. And for me, it's a weird one because Barcelona is always end of August and it's earlier. As Spraggy just mentioned, the festival starts on the 8th. We start streaming from the 14th and we're going to be done by the 21st. And that means we get a little break before WCOOP, which I'm also looking forward to because we're going to be streaming that as well.
Oh my goodness. How blessed are the followers here on twitch.tv/PokerStars or youtube.com/PokerStars. Very exciting. And I'll be playing a lot of WCOOP and you guys will have cards up in WCOOP and it's all happening, isn't it? It's all happening right here.
They were just asking me for dates for WCOOP too. So yeah, the whole shebang, the whole team's going to be straight back at it.
Yes, more details on WCoop to be unveiled in future weeks, including our streaming plans, but the save the date announcement is out there, guys. It is going to be pretty much the first 4 weeks of September, and some really big events planned during that series. So stay tuned for more info on that. As far as our Barcelona streaming plans are concerned, even though the Poker in the Ears podcast is officially on summer break, we did drop a couple of summer specials. The third and final summer special will drop next week. Joe and I are going to connect back end of this week. We'll record that show. It'll be released on the 11th of August, and that will include all of the details, our full Barcelona streaming schedule, including the couple of extra streams, the couple of extra games that I didn't mention just now. We'll make sure you've got everything you need to know. But really, the dates is the key info, right? 14th to the 21st. And whether you watch on Twitch, whether you watch on YouTube, you'll have plenty of cards up action for your entertainment. Talking of cards up, you can hear the cards being dealt in the Sunday Million. I'm going to take a break. I will leave you with Mr. Walsh and Mr. Spragg. Enjoy as they continue to play down to the final table.
All right, guys, so here we go. Back at it. Cards are in the air once again. We're going into the game once again now with 17 players remaining, 17 playing down to a winner today. Right now, currently, Royal Math is at the top of our chip leader, 82 million chips up there. And straight out of the gates, we see pocket sixes all in versus this wider open from the Queen 4 off. Again, our boy Biggie not letting us down.
Biggie.
Biggie.
Yeah, Queen 4 off's a bit much, isn't it?
Yeah, Queen 4 off is a bit wild. And honestly, I don't think that was one of those situations where the stack sizes kind of would suggest that was a wider spot, in my opinion.
This is more reasonable. King 7 suited from Biggie.
Yeah, much more reasonable here.
I do think, despite not being the chip leader, I don't think Kasiv is going to take any spots off, because I think they just play very solid game. I think other than that, Biggie is certainly just going to drive most of the action at the table, if what we've seen so far is anything to go by. And I like probably just betting Queen 4 deuce with everything.
Yeah, like a 1/4 pot size here seems very, very reasonable at this stack depth. You got the backdoor hearts as well. You got an overcard. You know, there's some ways out here.
And a raise here from Kasiv again. Biggie probably deep enough to take some flats, and indeed does. It's unlikely to allow them to see 3 cards in the middle, though, because Pete are looking the small blind with the nuts. Ace King suited. Off 20, mid 20 big blind stack, so not a lot of wiggle room, especially with the addition of the call from Biggie. Not a lot of wiggle room to have 3-bet folds here. Yeah. I think we're far more likely just to see a jam pre-flop at this depth.
Ace King suited is the being the suited and not as opposed to the offsuit variety does frequently see them sort of non-3 betting there, but I think there's so much additional dead money in there. There's so many additional dead blinds that are big blinds that are already dead. It's very rare that Biggie's going to turn up there, I think, with a huge trap of any variety. Plus, you have Ace King suited. So, you know, you're at the absolute top of your range. Seems pretty good. Just put it in.
Easy rip.
Yeah. Pede with Queen 10 there. Definitely had an option. I think Queen 10 wouldn't be that unreasonable, but he is covered by the big blind here, which is going to affect his opening range there. Do you think Queen 10 might fall into an open there still? Spraggy?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably still a little bit. You do want to tighten up when you're covered. I think probably that means that in the cutoff, the offsuit 9x come in normally.
Sure.
So you'd open Jack 9-0, Queen 9 off,
Queen 9
King
off,
9
right?
off.
Yeah.
But I think Queen 10, because you just have like far more options around broadways and things like that. Broadway boards and that sort of thing. Probably just have to raise. Excuse me. Might see a 3-bet here from Biggie with a King 4 off as well. Whoa. I was expecting maybe some like 7 million and fold to jams, but this is full pressure. Press from Biggie.
I mean, that's not the first time we've seen sort of a low offsuit king being played as a jam just when he's got coverage, and it seems to be working in his favor at the moment. It works. 60% of the time, it works every time, Sprague.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a little bit too much. You will see some shoving of suited King X and the like. And in general, I think playing a very blocker-heavy rejam at this stage of the tournament's pretty cool, because the hands that are calling off. It's very important for you to have an ace or to have a king.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it's fine. It's definitely going to be too much, though. I mean, if you're shoving King 4-0 and you just stretch into all of those offsuit kings, then your opponent's calls are going to be doing too well because you're doing it too often. But
wow,
no,
look at this
not
flop
horrible.
now. Look at this flop as well. Ace high board and a set for Pede.
Yeah, and Kassiv with a hand that's going to be worth very little in terms of checking and showing down. So you might see, if there's a check, some betting. But Pede takes the lead with the sevens. Biggie will be going precisely nowhere. There was some fun turns, like an 8 of clubs, or any club, or an 8 or a jack, but 3 is a pretty big brick.
Yep, pretty big brick there.
I'd like to see Pede take a sizing that allows them to shove the river for a same sizing. So to go sort of half pot, this probably works. Slightly greater than half. Does put Biggie in a tough spot already, though, because now Biggie has to expect Pede to be bluffing some Jack 10 or King 8 of hearts backdoor sort of combinations, or value betting Ace 5, which if Pede has Ace 5, I think maybe they just make a check in position, get go closer to showdown.
Yep.
So they're really already in the realm of having a bluff catcher, right?
Oh
wow,
my days!
That's
wow,
not going to end well.
Absolutely dusted off. Oh man, I mean, it's so Spraggy. It's so reminiscent of the Queen 9 suited earlier that we saw early against the Ace Queen, where he rivered the 9, right? Just like panicking on the turn, doesn't know what to do. I'm just going to put it in with top pair, and this time actually gets the full punish.
Yeah,
yeah, GG's.
Definitely a little bit ambitious. Now less than 10 big blinds, but as I said, I guess like jamming is people worry about the flush draw or they get uncomfortable with calling. But as I mentioned, if they have a worse ace, Pede, they're probably not going to go for 3 streets or something like Ace 5, like the worst one pairs. So it's not like you can even jam Ace 10 and get called by the worst ace or protect your hand or anything. So I think it's a call. You might even make an argument for a fold, just because the call relies on the Pede bluffing some like backdoor hearts and stuff, which, given that we were 3 ways on the flop, may not even be happening. But I definitely think the jam is a little bit overambitious, should we say.
Sure, absolutely. I agree.
I thought Pede played the hand really well because they had a set and someone went all in and they clicked call and they have 50 million.
I mean, that's pretty dream setup with the set there. It's pretty much as clean as it gets.
Yeah, so now this like reversal of Pede going, oh, Nick Walsh, there he is. What a wonderful image.
I'll just be one moment, guys. Thank you.
Pede, now with this reversal, folks, of having the big stack at the table, we did just see them fold Queen 10-0. So I'm keen to see how that shifts now they have all the chips, whether they stay what was pretty tight or whether they wield that large stack sword appropriately, if you will. I don't think 4-5 suited is the time to do it. Probably quite happy to take the fold here, but going forwards. And Peter defends with a dominated hand, but does flop a little something. Has the gut shot. And versus a sizing probably doesn't want to fold. It's either going to be a call. I think a check raise is going to be in there sometimes. With the backdoor diamond, they might not want to check raise fold their equity as much. Because it sucks to check raise here, get jammed by pocket jacks and have to give up 10-7. They do go for the check raise, which I don't think is horrible. They get the fold from the hand that dominated them, so works out very well. Very nicely done. And folded to the cutoff. Everybody's got very poor, ugly holdings. Nick, I need to get some photos done like Nick Walsh. This is one of the most professional things I've ever seen from a member of PokerStars team. Right. James. I know James is not audible right now, but the fact that he has that ready to go, it's such a shambles. It's such a disgrace how I get treated on this channel, folks, okay? That's from co-commentators, from people I'm supposed to call friends. It's from production. Nick Walsh gets this heroic-looking image. Looks like he's off the cover of some Marvel comic. and they have a picture of they have a picture of me from UK IPT Galway, where I probably just took a horrendous bad beat because I play so great and run so bad, right? And then captured exactly the wrong moment and held for like 10 years in James Hardigan's vault. 10s versus 9s, Biggie in big trouble. Absurdly big trouble. Biggie has... What happened here? Biggie has 8 million. Biggie's out. From hero to zero, 10 high is the winner. Biggie is gone. Ivan Lamera, 99 million, nearly 100 million in chips. Ivan Lamera with a nice big bounty as well. And we are down to just 15 players. We are just 6 away from a final table. I believe, even though the Sunday Million is now 8-handed, we do combine at 9. I'm going to go ahead and say that. And even Lamera, chip leader on this table, have to imagine they're chip leading the tournament overall. Very hard to think anybody is topping 98 million chips right now. Let's move on from the atrocities that we've witnessed here today in my webcam box, if I may. A limp from Vagrant, perhaps optimistically trying to see a flop with 5-4 offsuit. I think it will get punished by Havana, who's shown themselves to be very aggressive pre-flop. There's the punishment. You've all enjoyed that chat, have you, yeah? You're all having a nice time laughing at me. Shame on you.
Hello,
Shame
hello.
on you. Welcome back, Nick.
Hi guys.
I'm in bad spirits now.
Oh yeah, what's happened?
Ask James when he comes back in.
Are you guys picking on Spraggy again?
That's what's happened. See the stream right now? That's what I'm still here, but I have a holding image of that.
Oh no, he's done it again. He's done it again.
What is this guy's problem? Here's the thing. People think James Hardigan's like the most professional person at PokerStars, right? The consummate professional, the face, the voice of PokerStars for many, many years. But he's not above shameless mockery.
Shameless. Absolutely shameless. I missed it all. Sorry. I'm sorry I missed it, guys.
It's okay. Welcome back.
This is straight
Biggie's gone.
Guys. Biggie's gone?
Biggie's gone. Peter's got the nut flush draw. Ivan Lamera's got nearly 100 million chips in a pair.
All right, I'm all caught up now. Yeah, I mean that pocket 7 sand. Oh, just catastrophic from Biggie there. I think.
Do you think Peter's lining up the check shove here versus like a 1/3? Might well do. I kind of like it, but I do think with this hand, even Lamera probably checking behind. Having said that, I think the hand is still really strong. Wow, what a river.
Yeah, it's that one where he improves, but it's not a super obvious one.
The saving grace might be that Peter, obviously in the big blind, does still have some decent amount of 6x.
Yeah.
It's going to be 6x of diamonds,
6x
maybe 6x of spades, and then like 6-4. But I still think Ivan probably wants to try and value bet. Oh, very astute check behind.
Very nice. Yeah,
Gets away.
Very, 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 very well controlled there.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, he was under the gun, not big blind. I'm distracted because of this horrendous imagery that was presented before me. Disaster averted either way, indeed.
All right, straight back to the action here. Ace Queen wants to put in a really chunky size here. That is, I mean, especially against a button flat here, Spraggy. I feel like the button's going to have 10x quite a lot when they're flatting in from this position.
Yeah, they're going to have obviously like 10-9 suited through ace-10 and probably ace-10 off sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a risky board. I mean, all they're really serving to do with a hand like ace-queen is fold out king-queen and queen-jack, which is kind of has negligible benefits for you because you dominate it and you're somewhat incentivized for it to improve sometimes. So I think most players will start with a check with ace-queen.
Do you think that bigger size might merit a few more smaller pair folds or something like that? I mean, if you're flatting with a small pocket pair, you're probably not going to fold with like, you know, 1 overcard kind of thing.
Yeah, potentially some benefit to fold out the pair parts of the range. Again, like you do just dominate some ace-x flats. You dominate ace-jack, ace-9, ace-8 suited, and then you dominate the other queen-x as well. So limited merit to it. But at this stage of the tournament, maybe they just feel like they can potentially triple off very liberally and get a lot of folds with 15 left. and kind of
Yeah.
have a narrow range anyway. So just barreling the majority of it.
Yeah, sounds like a spot where you could definitely lean in and be quite aggressive, but works for him.
Yeah, I think at this stage of the tournament against certain players, I'm not necessarily saying against Havana, but you can make argument for just stepping way out of line and just constantly applying
Yeah,
pressure, and
yeah.
the majority of your opponents are going to freeze up.
Hmm.
No big argument against that.
Yeah, aggression usually can be justified. I mean, it's aggressive poker. The Brazilians have been showing us how to do it for years now.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get away with it in like a scoop 2K, 5K, 10K.
Right.
But Sunday Million later stage, it's very possible that people play way tighter than they quote unquote should in theory.
Sure. And just looking at the field, guys, we are down to 15 players in today's Sunday Million. Speaking of Brazilians, currently first and second, Royal Maff and Ivan Limiera are now the top two with 5K and 4K bounties that they've already accrued under their belt. Pocket Six is just putting in a bet there on the flop, taking it down. Very nice. So we're getting down to it now, Spraggy.
Yeah, we did see Kasif sort of take the foot off the pedal there with King 10-0. Three-way pots, very different to heads-up pots. Of course, people have to be a little bit more honest, but interesting to see them sort of slow down in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
500k, a million though. Nice blind level, because I know exactly how much everybody's got every point. And Peter comes in with a raise off 33.5 blinds, covering the big blind.
Covering that sweet BB. Queen 9's a nice hand to defend here. I like it. Flops the up and down to the king.
Yeah, decent enough flop. Peter does well here from the cutoff as well.
Yep.
Probably preference to bet.
Yep.
A lot of the time versus big blind.
Yep.
They do go for this slightly meatier half pot sizing.
Yeah, that was interesting actually. I thought I was expecting close to a quarter pot there.
Oh, what a fire turn.
Yeah, that's a pretty juicy turn. Not only is it an overcard to the jack and the 10, but obviously gives him the straight and flush draw to the ace with the nut flush draw as well. I would be surprised if he doesn't put in a second barrel here. It just seems really pretty. But although, you don't want to get check raised on the turn, do you? As well, that's one of those weird things. We don't get check raised by a hand like King 5 or King 10, and that's what you don't want to see right there.
Yeah, that sucks because you obviously have your bet folding away a reasonable amount of outs, but
yeah.
Also, it's very hard for your opponent to jam that turn without the sort of hand that they have, be it
exactly
like a set of fives, two pair, or straight. So
yeah,
it sometimes feels like you're bet folding away a lot, but you're kind of bet folding 9 outs,
right?
Which isn't so bad. And the merits of getting a fold from a 10 or even a jack, like if they defend jack 4 suited and you barrel the turn, I think that hand's in the bin.
Yeah.
And obviously, ace deuce really does benefit from folding out a lot of the pairs, and it will. So I think bet's probably better than check. All said and done.
Those are my thoughts exactly. There's a lot of spots where it's like as a streamer, you bet a turn where you got like a combo draw and you get check raised on the turn. And you're like and everyone's like, well, there you go. You got to just take the free card, But you need to ask yourself, is that a turn that my opponent is likely to improve on? Is that a turn that my opponent is likely to turn into a check shove as a bluff or something like that? And if the answer is no, you're probably always doing better by continuing with the aggression when you've got so much equity going to the river.
Yeah, and let's leave cards up at the door, right? And imagine with cards up and that it was jack 6 suited for the miserable 1 pair no kicker. Then we're all sitting here applauding, going, very nice barrel with the ace high, got the better hand to fold, right? Yeah. So I think we take it for what it is, take it on merit. I think it's a good play.
Yeah, absolutely. But it also interesting to note, guys, not to go back to that same hand for so long. Had he sized down on the flop like we were expecting him to, instead of going for that chunkier half pot size, he could have then barreled on the turn for much less, and it probably would have been a lot harder for Ivan to check shove the turn, which is one of those interesting dynamics that sort of stem from that initial sort of earlier decision in the hand. So had he gone 1/4, it's really hard for him to find a size on the turn where he gets check shoved down by jack 9. Because the stack depths are, well, not by jack 9 necessarily, but what I'm saying is by like some of the other combinations that we were describing. Obviously, he's got what is the effective nuts with jack 9.
Well, yeah, what it also does is when you take the bigger sizing on the flop, there's going to be some folds from 5x.
Yep.
Whereas if he goes smaller on the flop, then the 5x are retained.
Yep.
And then the benefit is barreling the turn. You fold out the 5s as well. But Really interesting here, actually. The 3-bet from Kasiv with Jack 10 off is definitely on the wider side of things. And Petty folding jacks is very significant. I think, honestly, a hand that I would be quite happy folding, you still have to worry about Ivan Lamera under the gun. You probably don't expect Kasiv to be that wide. And with 15 left, Ivan is one of in fact, the only player at the table that covers Pede. So if Pede cold calls, it reopens the action. Ivan can very easily shove, and Pede has to fold. Kasiv can still have really good hands, is probably expected to have really good hands because they're 3-betting under the gun. So there is absolutely no shame at all in Pede finding a fold there with jacks. I actually think the vast majority of the time, it's going to be the best choice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not expecting that 3-bet to be that wide in the first place, right? So it's already a very unusual spot when you're doing cards down, when you're considering the cards down action.
And the most important thing is cold calling sucks because you're going to reopen the action and you're still potentially up against 2 very strong ranges, and there's a lot of bad boards for jacks. So cold calling definitely sucks, but back raising all in and Ivan having queens plus is like a disaster with 15 remaining. A disaster.
Yeah, I mean, just putting in that many chips and then being forced to fold after the fact is just like, quit poker forever, honestly. It's just such an awful spot. Okay, King 10 going to open the action here. Pede finding the open with the offsuit King 10. Small blind will come along here some of the time. I think 8-7 suited does decide to call. Good flop for Pede, though. Probably going to want to c-bet this quite frequently. Does decide to check. I actually don't completely hate the check when you consider what this small blind flats with here some of the time. But I think either way is fine. He does have the 10 of clubs as backdoor equity as well.
Yeah, I think okay at some small weight. It's probably the weakest king that Pede's going to have, and I'd say has the insurance policy of the club.
Yep.
And the small blind range kind of centered around these broadways for the most part. What it's also going to do is allow you to, put in calls on the turn really happily, rather than just being capped at a queen and having to call turn, fold river all of the time. So mixing a king seems okay.
Yep, seems okay. This one's going to fly through. It's the easiest game ever.
Havana has been shown to get a little bit out of line, and it is a min raise, but Jack Deuce off.
If it's Jack Deuce off, I'm applauding Havana. I want Havana to take it all the way. If there's just like some 3-bet there or something going on, I mean, I think flatting Jack Deuce off can never be good. So if it's not a 3-bet, I'm not sure what else you're going to do with it.
This could get interesting because Havana has shown themselves to take very aggressive preflop actions, and you could certainly make an argument at 23 big blinds when you cover that this gets launched.
Yeah.
We did see Pede fold the jacks before to kind of different action.
Whoa. Wow.
I really wasn't expecting a fold. I do think you can call that sometimes too when you cover.
Yeah.
This is unsurprising.
Yeah. I mean, at this stage, you're actually quite happy just to get the chips here too. And tens, obviously tens is getting up there in terms of the pairs, right in the middle now. But it is extremely vulnerable, and we're not going to want to deviate too much with hands like tens here because you just want to get your hand in, protect your hand, potentially get some dead money, and then get called and sometimes dominate.
Ace Queen really sucks as a hand. I don't hate the fold. People tend to jam very tightly from the big blind. I think potentially even as high as like 7s, 8s, maybe even 9s.
Yeah.
People don't like to jam when they can take a flop. I don't think we're going to see even that much jamming of ace-jack, right? Like ace-jack, I still feel is quite happy to take flops, especially this deep into the Sunday Millions. So calling off ace-queen when you're up against like 10s plus ace-king. Yeah,
I mean it's an especially difficult sort of situation because of the fact that the open was much earlier, right? If the open was from the button, immediately you can just be blowing up with like loads of suited aces in the big blind, right? Because you got him covered and you kind of just his range is going to be wide enough. You're going to get so many extra folds, but when he opens from that early and you're seeing a jam, it's going to be a lot stronger than you want it to be with ace queen, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd struggle to fold in game. I think in game I'd probably just click call, but I think ace jack is an immediate bin versus most players.
Totally agree. Here we go, tens again, easy game. This is the takeaway, guys. Always just jam tens, never deviate. Just kidding.
Yeah, good hand in it.
Just get in, get it in.
Good hand. This is obviously fine. Obviously going to do well. I think maybe at 14 the hand is strong enough that it kind of wants to induce action. So even at 14, I probably min raise, call off.
Yeah, pocket jacks here for Havana. Doesn't look like they're going to get too much action here, but definitely getting into the point where you're going to want to be raising, getting in this in, especially against players that have you covered, who are going to be pushing some smaller pocket pairs and trying to punish you and win your bounty. Having said that, though, let's not forget Havana only has $81 behind. Username 99 actually says, have we missed a conversation about Havana having like 4 bounties with 14 left? I mean, that is definitely, I mean, to get to the stage in the tournament and have so few bounties is already a bit of an anomaly. What's the deepest you've gotten, Spraggy, with just like, one knockout or something like that?
Probably second. I honestly don't know. I will say though, from what we've seen tonight, Havana probably the most aggressive player pre-flop, certainly. So I don't think it's certainly not always right to look at a player and think, well, you don't have any bounties, it means you're not playing wide enough, or you're not going after them. Sometimes the circumstances of the tournament are just that you get table draws where you don't cover people, or all the pots that you win could be big pots even, but you happened not to cover. So it's just the way it goes sometimes. You just don't have the chance for them, or the opportunities don't go your way.
Or if you're telling me Havana's super, super aggressive, they've just dedicated their life to being a red line warrior and absolutely refuse to be all in. It's just 100% non-showdown, or I'm not interested. That's about it. King Jack suited going for the open here.
Yeah, and certainly deep enough to have raise steals and raise folds. Everybody covering is kind of looking to play pots with the people that they cover, but the hands are very miserable. At 2.2, it's definitely a fold. Peter does come in for the min raise. I think the bounty size probably impactful here. 2,362 on old Willy Wonka. So sort of stretching their arm a little bit into the more miserable parts of the range to try and get an opportunity to play.
I mean, if you flop 2-pair with 5 deuce, you're not going to get a lot of credit for it at that stage, right? So, go on then. Let's see if we can win a bounty here.
Sure, and the bigger the overlay, potential overlay on the pot, the more likely you are to get involved. And again, very sensitive to sizing. Worth noting that if it's 2.5, it's a fold. 2.2 is probably a fold, but it was only a min raise. So we can treat ourselves a little bit more of the time.
King Queen going to take the initiative. It's really hard for ace-8 probably should come along here, but it is very difficult to play this well, and that's probably one of the reasons why the Queen is a card your opponent should be barreling as a bluff here a lot of the time. So it's really difficult to pinpoint exactly what a good turn looks like unless it's like the deuce of hearts or something like that. That's probably good for like the ace-8 here. I really like the sizings that Ivan uses here. I think I probably take a very similar approach, and just get it through.
Up the stacks.
Yep, exactly. Kind of a small, and then like a 60% or a little bit over on the turn seems about right to me. King 10 on the button.
I think Peter's going to open plant trap with the shove, Ivan with the reshove. Maybe we see an open rip from Peter with 17 with the offsuit Broadway as well sometimes, but hard to imagine plant trap doesn't put it in. And I think with the bounty of 2.3k, Ivan's just never going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, plant trap should be shoving pretty much all of his pairs here as well, right? So you're just going to be flipping, a lot of the time. You're actually going to trap hands like ace-9 and ace-10 here. Wow. Okay, ace-jack going in for sure, though.
Yeah.
That's surprising, honestly. Like, that open is going to be so wide there. I'm surprised plant trap doesn't go for it, like you said.
Well, I mean, the only thing to consider is that Ivan has 100 million. So Peter is a little bit cuffed on the button. But I think that probably means that they go from like 65% open to like, I don't want to say as low as like 30, but probably like 35. So their range is definitely trimmed down a lot from what like a normal button raise is going to be. But I don't think it's going to go tight enough that ace-9 off doesn't get the rebang versus it.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's like we're going to see all the chips in the middle here. And very, very unfortunate flop for the 2 9s, and Vagrand is drawn to 2 outs.
Little glimmer of hope there on the turn, but we do see another elimination there. So GG's to Vagrant, who exits in 14th place, taking home 1,611. in bounties and 1,688 in chips in prizes. Excuse me.
Always a sweat. Always a sweat.
Always a sweat.
Yeah, so I don't think the range. I think it definitely gets trimmed down a lot because Evan's there with 105 million, but probably not so much that Plan Trap doesn't want to shove. What's worth noting as well is when you're playing these stack depths at like 16 blinds, your range on the button and opening in general wants to be very blocker heavy. So you're more likely to want to raise hands that stop the reshove. So like Ace 5-0 or King 7 suited is way better than 9-10 suited or 8-9 suited and hands like that.
Sure.
So like that means that the button's still going to be opening probably like Ace deuce off plus. So that's a lot of combinations in a blocker heavy range. So like Ace 9 probably just performs too well against it to not bang. But there's a lot going on with the open that Ace 9 isn't like auto jamming, you know?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's great analysis. I think those spots are super, super important. And I think that very, very interesting dynamics at play here, not only with the big blind being so deep, but then also obviously like the way that you need to adjust your range at this stage in the tournament to try and block the block the rejams. Ace Jack suited going to be all in here.
So we are dealing with a $2,362 bounty. So it does matter. Because obviously the pay jump from 9th to 8th is very similar to knocking out Willy Wonka and just to knocking out Plan Trap. So there's definitely something to keep an eye on about how that's gonna play out and how it's gonna impact ranges. And again, like Plan Trap has less fold equity in every situation where they shove, right? Because they're just more likely to get called with still 2.3k on the head matters.
Yep.
So you know that sort of plays into them jamming a little bit tighter.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's an interesting dynamic too, because you're gonna, if you're playing lower stakes games in general, I think you need to, if you do see people shoving, you know, quite a wide range in those situations where you know that they should be playing tighter, it's important to note, or at least to mentally note, that this player clearly isn't making adjustments for, you know, for the fact that they are going to get called more frequently and that kind of thing as well, so that you know not to overcompensate in important spots, like in these spots, if you see him shoving, you know, a really wide, like King Queen there or something like that, you know, we can start to make really, really cool, accurate sort of adjustments for the way that we should be adjusting our range for that jamming range in the first place as well.
Yeah, I mean everything. That's why like PKOs, it's like one big moving machine with many parts. Who's in the big blind, because your range for shoving in the hijack versus the cutoff is going to change based on the stack size of the big blind, right? So it's really important to be paying attention to all these moving parts, and not only paying attention to them, but understanding how each of the moving parts impacts each range. Like, what does that mean for me, right? Because you're not playing a regular tournament. It's very, very different, and there's a lot to adjust for. Sometimes you see people make very astute adjustments, and sometimes you see people misunderstand how that impacts ranges and make the bad adjustments. And whoever adjusts in a cleaner way will be finding themselves in more positive expectation positions, and that's the whole game, right?
That's the name of the game. Yeah, absolutely.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah. So we saw Ivan get a bluff through on the turn there with the sort of gut shot with the spade blocker on the turn. He's going to open Queen 10 of spades here now into Havana 6-5 off, which will be defended, which I think is probably reasonable, even though he is covered.
I mean, it might even, something like this might even be a little bit wide when we're with 13 left and you're playing against 100 million chips.
Yeah. So if you're, I was going to say, if you're playing pure chip EV here, you probably always defend anything like this. 6-5 is a snap call. But this sort of ICM pressure that you're under at this stage is very, very interesting, especially against one of the biggest stack who has a real incentive to just drill down into you. This is such a sad board. Again, we've seen
Havana might just make this like 3 million sometimes too.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. And pocket 7 is going to be open here too. But yeah, it's just such an interesting dynamic, especially down to 13 at this stage.
It's really hard to on that board because Havana just rips all the pairs and all the ace-x probably, but Ivan probably is byproduct of that just betting some absurd hands.
Yeah, like 100% of like an 80% opening or something like that.
Yeah, I think if it was like queen something or jack something, I'd be tempted if I was Havana to make it 3 million. But it's so hard on the ace side boards just because your ace blocker is just going to jam so frequently pre-flop.
Yeah, yeah. I think the big blind flatting range is going to be shoving quite a few combos of ace-x, and therefore you're more capped than the button open.
Interested now because Pele has been tight with the jacks and not too tight to a fault.
Wow.
That might be a bridge too far for this young poker player, folks.
That's snug right there. That I mean,
I'm out for that. Okay, I'm out for folding ace queen.
You're deep enough to play a pot there, but I was getting on board with Spraggy there. I think the flat isn't that outrageous at this stage.
Yeah,
But-
versus the big stack, I
Yeah,
think probably
yeah.
just gonna 3-bet sometimes, gonna
Yeah.
flat sometimes. I think
Yeah,
fold is a little bit pushing the I don't want to play pots against the big stack too far.
I mean, he's definitely making it to a final table if he folds that ace queen though. If he's going to be that snug, it's pretty hard for him not to make a final, which has some serious rewards. So who knows?
What about this then with the 2.3k bounty?
I mean, how can you can never fold king queen here, right? Surely. I mean,
Don't think so. I think king queen suited's definitely calling.
yeah.
It's kind of upsetting, but yeah, I think Plan Trap shoves enough pairs and enough stuff that we're live against, like ace 10, that we might get in. But king queen O, like I can't fault them. Weird spot.
You can definitely feel the pressure. I'm not saying that's the easiest call in the history of mankind, but king queen is one of those weird ones that you just very frequently are going to get involved in. You're going to call off for a bounty, right? It's like got those special properties where you're just gonna, unless you're running into ace king, ace queen, you're probably going to be pretty happy. And as Spraggy said, the more low pairs that they're going to have in that spot, the happier you are, really, because obviously just flipping against those.
And 9-10 suited shoving on the button there. I don't even know about that. Like, you do have to, like, obviously at chips in a regular tournament, it's a jam.
Yep.
But you do have to, we're jamming into Ivan with 120 million,
Yep.
with a $616 overlay. It's pretty miserable. I like this. Like I say, blocker heavy jams I'm much more in favor of.
Yeah.
And king 8 suited's going to just, get a lot more folds.
Yeah, I mean, in situations where hands like Jack 10 suited are highly incentivized to call, like hands like 9-10 suited are suddenly like very, very sad, right? You're like having a really bad time when a hand like Jack high is still like fist bump getting it in there.
Havana's going to jam at this depth, one would imagine. And Pele, who has probably been the tightest player at the table, it's only an $80 bounty, right? But they do call it off. We've got a big flip here.
Oh, big hold.
Yeah, huge hold for Pele's pocket sevens. They take the $81 bounty. We're down to, is that 12 players?
Yeah, we are down to 12 now. So Havana exits the tournament in 13th place, takes home $2,368.54 for prizes. And really quickly, guys, we have two all-ins here. Eights are all in, queens behind. Jack is out of the way. This is a big bounty, you guys. Can he hold? Oh, surely not. The straight on the river.
Me.
The straight for Plan Trap. What a moment to get lucky there. The 80-20 no good, and Plan Trap gets the full double, puts Kassiv down to 26 million. You hate to see it.
Ah, it's such a brutal spot, chat, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's sick.
11 left in the Sunday Million. There's a $2,300 bounty and 40 million chips. And it runs out 5 to the straight on the board. Your opponent has the bigger straight. It's just absolutely brutal for Kassiv.
That
Like,
is so sad.
Dream-like spot pre-flop.
Dream spot.
And very quickly turns into a backdoor nightmare.
Yeah, awful stuff. So we have seen a 12th place finish as well, guys. ATS 666 has exited in 12th place. We're actually down to 11 now, so that would have been another ladder there for Kassiv had he exited Plan Trap. ATS takes home $2,368.54 for prizes and $4,276 in bounties. So doing probably better than a lot of the players already in terms of bounties won. So not a bad prize regardless. One of the benefits of this PKO structure. All right, ace deuce of spades seems pretty good, especially as one of the larger stacks here. You're probably going to want to open all of your suited aces here, no doubt. King, queen of diamonds getting involved here. Ivan not afraid to play some pots. I think ace deuce can do a lot of things here. We have seen Pede playing very, very passively against Ivan. They do decide to check. I think you could go either way there, honestly. With the gut shot and the drier flop texture, I think you can bet there. But your opponents will have Jack X in the small blind here, no doubt about it. And he does have 100% on the river. I mean, Ivan kind of has a weird kind of showdown with king high, but I think he knows that his opponent has ace high when he checks 3 streets here, or at least ace high. So he does trying to bluff, and Pede does make a very apt call. That's such a cool dynamic, isn't it, Spraggy? Because he's playing his hand passively. Both players kind of know where they're at in that situation. And on the river, he's aware that he's played his hand in a way that looks a lot like ace high. Therefore, his pair is going to be strong a lot of the time. So even though he is playing it more passively, he knows when he has to call on that river, even with just bottom pair.
And I think that's the important distinction, is it's okay to check, but you have to be aware that every time you check behind, it caps you a little bit more.
Yep.
And the ace deuce becomes one of the strongest hands you're ever going to have.
Right.
Then against an aggressive opponent, you have to put in the call sometimes, and it gets a little bit uncomfortable. But credit to Pede there for realizing that was the case and showing down a winning hand.
Yeah. I think we followed him all the way there. I kind of knew where his head was at on the flop, and then on the turn, same kind of games. He's still concerned about Ivan having over pairs to second and third pair that are never going to fold to a turn bet. You can see where his head is at, but you got to be brave if you're going to be more passive in those situations, which, as Spraggy says, can feel really bad. Like when you're trying to improve your poker game and you're doing some solver work and stuff like that, it's saying, oh, you should be checking like bottom pair on this flop. And you're like, but it's so much easier to bet bottom pair on the flop because I find out where I am really quickly. Well, that's not always the case. There's lots of reasons why we don't do that. But then it means that you have to play turns and rivers, and a lot changes in those moments, and you have to understand how to adjust thereafter, if you're going to take a very alternate line.
This is really interesting because there's certainly some scenarios where this gets domed. And feeding back into what you've just spoken about, Nick, when you decide to check back, the strongest hand you're going to have here, fives, certainly if you're going to check, you probably have to commit to calling down. And plan trap won't be too afraid of the queen. Maybe there's some ace queen checking back and calling, but goes for the value at the river. And a very quick call from the fives, which I think is fair enough. Like I say, once you check back, you kind of committed to looking it up. And sometimes it goes this other way. Sometimes you have a hand that has to call, but you run into it.
Yeah, and that scenario, he probably saves himself a little bit, but there's arguments that if he bets the flop, he slows down the action with the sevens, and then the same amount goes in, on the turn, and then there's check river or whatever. But yeah, I think it is very, very interesting when you start to check flops, because it just completely changes the outlook and the perception of your range, and it gives your opponents an opportunity, incentive to change the way that they're going to play too. So that's the name of the game, isn't it? Right? Like you're going, I understand what I'm representing. I understand how checking this flop is going to change how my opponent perceives that, but how quickly are they going to clock on? Are they kind of the kind of players that, oh, this is a really interesting shove of queen 10 off.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to the 9-10 suited in that this is a very clear shove for chips. It gets less and less attractive when you have less fold equity. It's very close. I think probably still taking it. Very close, though. No, I think it looks like a layup to people who sort of are used to watching regular tournaments or something, but changes very, very quickly in the PKOs.
Yeah. When I started looking at a lot of the adjustments you make when covered, blind v blind in particular is really interesting, because you're supposed to be shoving blind v blind with like hands like 8-7 suited, 6-5 suited, all that kind of stuff. Like those are slam dunk chippy v shoves like all of the time, blind v blind under 12 big blinds effective or something like that, right? But as soon as you're looking at somebody who has you covered and incentivized to call you for bounty value, all of those just go out the window. And like Spraggy was saying earlier, it just becomes so much more weighted towards high cards, as opposed to those really, really beautiful sort of suited connector hands that only play as well as they do when your opponents are incentivized not to gamble. Just really important that people adjust to that, or you're going to be making way more mistakes if you're just trying to transfer your normal standard chip game into PKO format.
Man, Pede just getting smacked down there. Rivers the 2-pair and the straight fills for Ivan, who goes for a full pot size bet. Of course, gets paid off by Pede, who was, I guess, pretty excited to check call 2-pair. It's versus that size thing. You're never really dancing around your kitchen before you click the button, but you have to call 8-9. A huge river for Ivan, who's gone from strength to strength up to 130 million in chips, and continuing on here with king 3 of spades. Plan trap lays it down. Rough couple of hands for Pede. 7s against 5s, 2-pair against the straight. Doesn't really do anything wrong. Doesn't really step out of line. Made a nice call, ace deuce.
Yep.
But a rough 5 minutes. They still continue on with a very healthy 62 million.
So Plantrap did open this pot blind v blind, which I'm a fan of, especially at the stack depth. I think that's totally fine, even against the chip leader. King 7 suited is already a very playable hand. The only fear is that, you know, the big blind can 3-bet you much wider in this situation. I think they can apply a lot of additional pressure when you're sitting there with 40 million to start or something like that, a little bit over. He's going to bet flop. He's probably going to be forced to give up on the turn a lot here. I don't really see how he continues unless he does something really, really wacky on this turn. Ivan just with a very punishing size here as well, Spraggy. Just like so difficult to do anything from a when he bets 7.5 mil on the turn there. It's like, you're going to shove? What are you going to do? You calling? You're not really calling. You don't want to get to the river when you're out of position in that with king high there, I don't think.
No.
So seems good.
Yeah, I like it. I like the raise from Ivan as well. Why fold from queen jack blind the spine for the small raise. But again, this is happening because Ivan has all the chips, covers their opponents. I think maybe queen jack probably. I know in game that I would take a flop. But being covered, we do have to tighten up a lot. I think queen jack off to what was kind of a small raise in position might be a little tight. But don't forget, we're playing for the pay jumps here as well, folks. Okay, so we're 11 left. First place is 54k plus bounties, and 11th now is going to be something around $3,000. So very heavily incentivized to stay in the tournament right now. Everybody is, of course, more so than ever. This is probably the point of the tournament where ICM is at its fiercest. When we're sort of headed towards 9 players is when the risk premium is going to be highest. And players just kind of want to hang on in there rather than try and win chips. So you're going to see Ivan punish, and punish some more. And on these monotone boards, probably just betting really small. Really hard for Plantrap to do too much with the majority of their range. The sick thing about this game in this situation is even when Plantrap has queen 8 here, oh my goodness, what a run out.
What a run out.
I mean, the good news for Plantrap is, as I was just kind of alluding to, they really don't want to go broke. So it's going to go bet here. I assume Ivan's going to put a value raise in, and I think they have a pretty easy fold. But yeah, Ivan playing well, running incredibly well, and it's a lethal combination. I love that small raise. Just because Plantrap really, really, really doesn't want to put chips in right now. So jamming is too greedy. I think if they jam, it's just an easy fold. Like, of course, I'm not going broke right now. But a little little 5 million, little milker, love it.
And you're sitting there with 2 pair, and you're going, this guy is just really trying to turn. He's just trying to turn screws on me here. Like, you know, I can never fold 2 pair. I can't fold 2 pair here. This is the chip leader. He's just trying to put in a wacky raise in the river.
Sizing, maybe he could even have like jack 8 or jack 7. Sometimes you just kind of like convince yourself that stuff's happening.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Or like maybe he's pushing me around with like jack 10 turned into a bluff or something like that, right? So it's just like, versus this sizing, you hate your life. Versus a jam, you have an easy decision, but a nice laydown either way from Plantrap.
Yeah. Oh, wait a sec, though. This looks like we might see a call from Ivan here. Wow, snap folds the king-queen there. That's really interesting. It was, you know, a decent chunk of big blinds there, but it seemed like, you know, for the 2K bounty, there's a chance that Ivan, as the chip leader, might have gambled. What do you think, Spraggy?
Yeah, especially versus the open jam. Because even at this stage of the tournament, I think you can take out queens, kings, aces, maybe even ace king, maybe ace king suited more so than ace king o. So you very rarely dominated, and there is a bounty. Yeah,
so more weighted towards the pocket pairs that you have 2 versus 2. Again, king queen just has one of those really interesting sort of flipping properties. We do see the L in here. Queen jack suited with the draw and the hold from Pede. That means Peter is going to exit this tournament, and that means, I believe we are headed to a final very shortly, guys. We are down to just 10 players remaining, so we're getting very, very close now. So Peter there exits the tournament in 11th, taking home $3,322.68 and $1,183 in bounties. Congratulations, sir. All right, guys, so we are going to switch over very quickly in just a moment.
Hello. Look at that. Royal Math.
Oh, my days.
Red marker, red target on the head. That's the biggest bounty in the tournament, and 111 million.
111 million. Man, that is a lot of bounty value right there that you can win.
And a heavy sizing here from Ace Queen, really looking to protect its hand with a close to pot-sized bet. Royal Math with a hand that desperately wants to see a turn, but can't for the price.
All right, so
Final table bubble time. This is it.
yeah, we're right on the bubble now, guys. We're getting right down to it now. We see King Queen here in the cutoff.
All in.
Just absolutely bombing it. And big blind Ciclo with Queen 10 suited. Definitely a hand that he could gamble with here, but it's a ton of chips out of his stack. I wouldn't be surprised to see the fold once we have the ICM pressure here.
Never more likely to take a similar option. Ripping the ace-jack suited. Bigger bounty, but no viable calls.
Yes, indeed.
We remain five-handed here, five-handed there. Well, someone in the chat there, Hadouken, asking why did we redraw? There was no redraw here. We just switched to the table. We switched table we were spectating. We actually saw the biggest stack get balanced off. We saw the 111 million chip stack balanced off.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got pretty much 5 stacks here. 5 of the presumably shorter stacks, obviously 2 bigger stacks on the other table. This one is far more likely to have all-in action. A lot of stacks will be flying. We've already seen 2 shoves since we've been here. A lot of players looking to just steal blinds, keep their head above proverbial water, if you will, before the final table.
And obviously, the shorter the stack is, the lesser the ICM pressure on them, because of course they're the ones trying to get the double, trying to remain in, whereas the medium stacks are the ones waiting for the smaller players to bust and allowing the big stacks to really do their work. Look at this turn for the Jack 7 of diamonds, picking up a pair to go with his flush draw. And
pretty rarely good versus a call on the flop at this stage of the tournament.
Yeah, I was going to say, this might be one of the turns where you slow down Spraggy and just try and realize the equity of your hand, but the shove gets through there and takes it down. Wow. Very interesting spot. Getting a hand like ace-7 to fold there is so interesting.
Massive. Getting ace-7 to fold there is unreasonably massive. So I love the fact that Nevermore DM correctly recognized that this stage of the tournament, their hand is not really got showdown value, and decided to try and fold out a better hand. I think it's interesting for Bayesian in that they called in the big blind off a very short stack. A lot of their strong aces are going to be all in pre-flop. So ace-7 might be the best hand they're ever going to have. So theoretically, they probably should call ace-7, but it's so miserable to have to call off there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Very interesting dynamic there. Definitely a couple schools of thought on the turn as well, honestly, because as Spraggy said, the Jack probably doesn't have enough showdown value to win once they get called in the flop, but obviously it does have a considerable draw that doesn't really want to see a call either, so potentially could just try and get there instead.
And sometimes wins, like maybe against like an 8, maybe, but at this stack depth, this stage, how much 8-9 is calling pre, and you know, we've already seen a lot of tight play from the big blind, so kind of hard to imagine there's that much 8x.
All right, guys, we're going to switch now again. We're going back to our table here. Ace-8 versus Ace-Jack. We enter on the turn.
It's a battle of the behemoths.
Yeah, the absolute monster stacks, both players over 100 million. And the Jack does actually ping it off on the river. But interesting dynamic now. We haven't seen the action up until this point, guys, but Ivan obviously has a lot of showdown value. The Jack obviously can be bad for them. So I'm assuming to see a check on the river. And then Royal Math has the choice as to whether or not he wants to try and get value from what is probably the best hand now. I don't think a queen is very often going to just be checking down here. But as I said, we didn't see what the action was up to this point. So
given the size of the pot, it looks like there's not been enough action that Ace-Jack wouldn't be value bet. Trying to target like a Jack-10 or a King-Jack or indeed an Ace-8.
Yeah, well, sounded about right. Looked about right to me as well. And sure enough, we do see the value bet there. Ace-7 all in. 10's going to go with him. Oh, my days. The flop of dreams for Ace-7 of diamonds. Flops the absolute nuts. And still in hand for hand play. We're switching now to the other table, guys. Ace-Queen all in. Big blind. Very unlikely to call with Jack-10 off.
Huge flop for Cassive. Flops them all but dead. Doubles up with the nut flush, which will leave Plan Trap, who at one point was at least the biggest bounty, very short. Look at this for a distribution.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was the old...
Any callers, Nick? Aces, button, 20 big blinds?
I don't know.
Love it. I love that.
The flat is amazing. That. Oh, traps the queens. Nevermore's got to hate the spot, though. Makes the fold. Aces and queens all in, guys. This is for our final table. Domination right now. And the aces hold. We are going to a final table, ladies and gentlemen. Not too shabby at all, guys. And that is a KO now. So Ciclo exiting in 10th place, taking home $3,322.68 and $1,000 in bounties as well. Not too shabby. We are going to a final now, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here.
And there's that short stack of plan traps. Going to be all in first hand. Has the ace and the king. Premium holding. So it's good luck all. Good time for good luck. Tournament life on the line. 9 left in the Sunday Million. This is where it matters most.
Oh, man. So much sickness. Spraggy, I got to say, I'm kind of happy because Steve got his justice there with the ace-7 of diamonds when he got queens cracked. But the trays are going to protect. Yeah. Ace-king looking clean right now. Okay. And a full double for plan traps. Still in the tournament. And we are headed on a break now, guys. All right, so it's break time once again, ladies and gentlemen. We have just 9 players remaining in this Sunday Million PKO, which means we are just 8 places away from crowning our winner, who will walk away with over $53,000 plus bounties. We currently have a chip leader, Ivan Limera, who's got a monstrous 158 million. We got a 5-minute break, and then we'll be straight back to the action.
Thank you very much, Nick. And yes, during that session, in addition to getting down to the final table, we did lose the start of day chip leader Biggie. So that means the jinx lives on. The start of day 2 chip leader, since the Sunday Million has become a PKO, still has not made a final table. We will be tracking that narrative over the course of the coming weeks and months and possibly even years. During the last break, we talked about what's coming up in Barcelona. I'm kind of jumping all over the timeline at the moment. I want to flash back a few weeks to Vegas. Spraggy, very jealous that you got to spend an extended amount of time in the state of Nevada, in the gambling capital of the world. How was Vegas? How was the World Series this summer?
Vegas was great. Seeing friends, obviously Marley, my wife, spending some time with her. Great to see so many people. My very first World Series of Poker. Been to Vegas like 5 or 6 times. Played a lot of poker in Vegas, but my first proper World Series of Poker. Poker couldn't have gone much worse. But, I mean, you play like 15 tournaments. I probably didn't play as much as I expected to play, just because I got sort of trashed pretty early. Played the main event. That was a lot of fun. Made it to 3 hours into day 3. Did not make the money. Overall, a losing experience this time around, but I don't think it was because I was not a favorite in the field. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm sensing a theme here, and can I just say that your stories from the poker table are sounding a little bit Stapleton-esque in their focus on your misfortunes and how badly you seem to be running right now.
Well, I am on probably the biggest downswing of my life. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. That I had a very good start to the year, very bad second half of the year, bad scoop. But live poker is a different beast in a sense of the volume that you can put in, obviously. And there was just a lot of very big pots that didn't go my way. I don't want to sit here and moan about it, but that's just, that's the way it is.
It's reality. Yeah, I get it. And
Joe
also,
Stapleton is one of the unluckiest poker players I have ever met, though. I will say that.
Yes.
I mean, listen, let's not get it wrong. He plays horrendously as well.
Yes.
But it's a very dangerous combination to play bad and run bad too.
I think the other key difference is you've identified the fact that you are experiencing a downswing right now, which I appreciate is brutal, but you also acknowledge that over your 10-year poker career, you've had upswings. That's the bit that Joe is still waiting for, is the
That's
upswing.
where he's missing out, is the winning ever. Yeah. And listen, I think when you go on poker trips like this, especially when you're playing 10, 15 tournaments, you can't go in and think, well, I'm going to win. I'm, better than my opponents, or I deserve to win, or anything like that. It's 10, 15 tournaments. If you lose a couple of bad all-ins, you're not going to have a winning summer. So I tend to focus, like with the UK IPT trips, the EP trips, like, did I put myself in the best position to win? Yes. Did I have a nice time seeing friends, enjoying the trip, spending time, whatever it is? You have to look at it as a whole. And as a whole, Vegas was great.
Absolutely. By the way, Croaks, who feels bad for Joe, don't. The guy is running very well in life overall, and he'd be the first to acknowledge that. You mentioned Marley, Ben. What is the grand plan? Are you going to be continuing to commute, or will one of you relocate eventually?
She is relocating. That is an ongoing process, which I keep saying, but should be drawing to a conclusion any day now. She will be, I believe, coming to Barcelona.
Cool.
So
cool.
I think she's never been to an EPT, so she's going to be playing some Estrellas. She's going to be playing some EPTs. She's going to be around. So that'll be nice. That'll be nice to obviously spend some time and for her to spend some time at a PokerStars event. Yeah.
It's weird. Marley is one of those people who I feel I've met but haven't, because obviously I've seen so much of her content. We've had her on the podcast. I've seen her on live streams. I've spoken to her on live streams, but have never actually met her face to face. So I'm pleased to hear that she will be coming to EPT Barcelona.
Yep, she will. You will have the privilege, as will she, of spending some time together. So it'll be nice.
I think you had it right the first time. The privilege will definitely be all mine, and certainly does not work the other way around.
It certainly does.
Benjamin, you have earned yourself a break. Take the next hour off. Nick and I have got to get back to the final table of this week's Sunday Million. 9 players remaining, down to 1 table, Nick, and a not insignificant chip lead for Ivan Lamera, 158 million. The other Brazilian player at the FT, Royal Math, is the second biggest stack with 118 mil.
Yeah, those guys are having a pretty good day here. And, I mean, as we've spoken about at great length, not only do they have a ton of chips, they've already got tons of chips for the fact that we're on the final table, but also having that coverage over so much of the field just handcuffs so many of the medium stacks from playing against them. So they get this like really nice advantageous situation where they don't have to play too much against any of the other stacks that really offer them a threat, because they're tightening up at this stage to try and ladder, and they can just lean into the shorties with all of the benefit of the fact that they can win their bounties. So super advantageous, and I think that's why it's important that you gamble super hard going into day 2, and I'm not saying gamble without cause, but you don't want to rest on your laurels, and I think that might be the reason why we've seen so many. Oh, we do have an all-in here.
We do indeed. The Ace-7 is done. Kazeev KOs Bayesian, who got carried away with the Spraggy. Ace-7 offsuit. And we get our first elimination from the final table. Goodbye to Bayesian from the UK, who cashes out for $4,766 plus just shy of $1,500 in bounty money. Before we lose any more players, which might happen, let's quickly do, actually, we're going to have to call this hand and see if it's a 3-way all-in here, or whether someone folds.
I mean, it's not a huge bounty, but Ace-King is just such a slam dunk push here. Jacks actually are going to get out of the way. Well, no, they've got both players covered so significantly. Excuse me, they've got to get this in.
Skook has just flattered. Skook did not rejam.
Oh, great fold from Jacks. Great fold.
Wow. And Joe 776 gets a clean run out and gets the double up to 48.5 million. Average stack right now is 65.5 million. So yes, let's do our geographical tour of the final table, Nick. I mentioned that Bayesian, who went out in 9th, was from the UK. We have got Plan Trap playing from Armenia. We referenced that earlier on. Nevermore DM is the last remaining Belarusian player. Kazeev is playing from Thailand. Joe 776 is German. Skook 81 is Canadian. Pede 25 is playing from Denmark. And then the 2 players with more than 100 million each are the last 2 remaining Brazilians, Rolmath and Ivan.
Oh yeah, baby, they're pushing it. But yeah, a couple really exciting hands there straight back from that break. And yeah, I was just saying how important it is that going into day 2, you play as hard as you can to accumulate chips to put yourself in such a good spot here on the final, like we see with Ivan. And perhaps that is why we have this sort of jinx thing that you've been talking about, James. Maybe that's it. The big stacks know that what they want to do is retain that lead, and they just, they have to be getting involved. And maybe that's what's influencing this sort of day 2 chip leader not making it to a final or not taking the game down situation. Skook wakes up with Ace King again here. I don't know how much action he's going to get, though. I think Royal actually has he can open any 2 cards here, and I think 9-4 off is not at all outrageous. I think this is totally fine as one of the monsters into 2 shorties. I'm really interested to see how Skook plays. I think generally speaking, you always want to be 3-betting here, no messing around at all. And he does go for quite a big size here.
And we get the fold from Royal Math, who has the red target, the single biggest bounty available. And it is in play right now because Ivan has Royal Math covered. So Ivan could potentially claim that bounty of nearly $4,000 if we get some Brazil on Brazil action.
Oh, we can only hope, James.
So blinds will be going up in a minute's time as we have Ace-Jack versus Ace-8 in the blinds. And Skook,
Trap, you guys.
yeah, just completes.
This is such a good trap. I applaud this all day long. This is exactly how you want to play this hand in the coverage. How hard is it not to shove Ace-8 over this limp? How absolutely impossible is it? He lays the trap, gets it in.
Domination situation. And the rotation on the river as Nevermore hits the 8. And now these two are practically even in chips, both hovering around the 40 million mark. And Plan Trap misses out on a ladder. Plan Trap, who is the shortest stack right now.
Put yourself in Skook's shoes there for a second, James. He had like Ace King won a pot, or sorry, Ace King lost a pot to Kings. Ace King won a pot against the chip leader, and then traps him perfectly. Ace Jack versus Ace 8 gets rivered. Not ideal. Got to do better than that, Skooks. Let's go.
Jacks for Joe. 2.8 million.
Outrageous. What an excellent trap, though. So hard not to shove Ace-8 there, which is why that's even better than just pure chip EV pre-flop action. Jack's going to put in a really, really small continuation here. Ivan probably can justify with one overcard and some backdoor straight draws. It's so small that I think the call should be mandatory. He does decide to come along here.
I've just realized, Nick, we missed a trick. We always say that when faced between telling the truth and the legend, tell the legend. We could have pretended that the reason why Joe can't work tonight is that Joe decided to play the Sunday Million and that Joe 776, who's made the final table, is actually Joe Stapleton. Not inconceivable that he'd have some goofy Mario avatar.
It's just Joe playing from his Nottingham home, his home in Nottingham that he purchased many years ago, and yeah, he's just playing from his UK address, no problem at all. 776 is actually Joe's home zip code in Los Angeles, so he just thought he'd, top set over here for Royal Math.
Good point from Omar Skins. This Joe is running good. It can't possibly be Stapleton. That's why that gag would never have worked, and that's why we were right not to pursue it.
He's been saving up all his run good for this moment. He made the trip to the UK and he went, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this time. No, actually, I'm very excited because on Thursday evening, I'll be doing my stream during the day, and then Thursday evening, I get a train up to Edinburgh to go and actually see Joe in the flesh in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And going to go watch some of his shows.
I really wanted to do it, and obviously some of my colleagues are going to make the trip. I couldn't make it work. I've just got too much happening both at work and at home right now. A lot of changes happening domestically, but also with the build up to Barcelona, I just couldn't justify it. I couldn't make it happen. So I feel bad, but I know that a lot of people are going to support him. I know a lot of people have got tickets. So
do you know what days they're going by any chance? Is
this weekend, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say we're back to Sunday Million next week, aren't we? So next Monday. Yeah, I'll be there all weekend long. Very, very much excited about it.
Pede wins that pot up to nearly 100 million, comfortably sitting in third on the leaderboard.
Yeah, Joe just deciding to fold the trays under the gun, which I think I really, really like. Let's take a look at some of these other shorties, guys. Plan Trap probably being the most obvious one here, down to 8 million chips, not many at all. Why do you want to put yourself in awkward situations when you're already looking at such a clean ladder here? Somebody else can do your dirty work for you. Oh man, this could get interesting here. Ace Queen suited UTG. Pede with the coverage. I mean, he's got 96 million. I think a 3-bet here is just what we're going to see every time.
Yeah, and yeah, it's worth highlighting that Pede certainly has Ivan's number, and Ivan has tried a fair few times to bluff Pede, and it is not worked out for them. Ivan has dropped down to 127 million.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Skook, I'm just going to slam this in because Pede has such an incentive to 3-bet me light from this position, but obviously feeling the pressure from plan trap, so I understand why he's feeling like he needs to let that one go.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to comment on Skook's play here because I think it is, or I'm going to comment. I'm not going to judge Skook for making the fold there because I can definitely feel the pressure of this final table, and you know, in game, you know, potentially I might do the same, but it's not. You know, it just feels to me like a spot where you're gonna want it. You're gonna have the best hand a lot of the time, and you're probably gonna win a bunch of non-showdown too. So getting in it isn't that outrageous, even though there are some considerable pay jumps. Now you're not exactly in the best position, right? There's not like 3 short stacks, you know, you're waiting for. So
Yeah.
in my book, I might have got that one in, but Skook now keeps waking up with the hands. Let's see if the kings work out for him this time.
Skook with the kings. 3 bets to 11.2 million. And for as long as plan trap is sat there with 8 mil, it is going to keep everyone else playing
Snug.
cautiously, shall we say. 5 big blinds for plan trap right now. And here, oh, Pede opening with ace-10. Nevermore on the button, or rather in the small blind with queens. The flat from 6s from Skook.
Yeah, that is very, very interesting. I don't. If you're going to play ace queen suited that snug, I think you probably don't want to be playing 6s here either, unless you're going to play it as a jam. And even then, I think it's probably too wide to jam. I don't know it exactly, you guys, for sure, but this 6s in this spot is just a very, very weird spot, and it's very difficult to play well off of this stack depth. So fair play. The flat and the fold, you know.
Yeah.
Takes a dent.
Thrill asking, is there a big blind ante, or does everyone ante in online tournaments? Everyone antes, because the big blind ante would be fixing a problem that doesn't exist. When bets are automatically posted by the software, you don't have to worry about everyone anteing. The reason why the big blind ante exists in live poker, anyone who used to play back in the day when everyone was expected to post an ante, it would slow things down by about 30 to 60 seconds per hand, especially when everyone lost track of who'd anteed and who hadn't.
Yeah, nightmare, isn't it? Yeah, I think in hindsight, probably the flat is still fine with 6s there, honestly, guys. But I think they're definitely deep enough to just set mine there and, you know, win what potentially would be a big stack. But it is very difficult to play around when we know there's another shorty in play. And King Queen's going to make the fold here against the 10s.
Fives open. Pede can defend here with 9-8 should they wish, and they do. And it's a set of 5s for Skook.
Yeah, if they go small enough here, which they probably should off of these stack depths, they might get some action for the gut shot to the 7. Probably even more so if Pede had 8 of clubs, 9 of clubs, and they could turn their hand into a bluff. You know, honestly, I don't even. 1/3 is never going to be bad here, but I think honestly, there's a chance that maybe even smaller would be okay too. Does make it a lot easier to get the chips on the turn, though, the bigger you go. So I think 1/3 is pretty cool. And on the turn, sizing up, don't blame them. Get another call from a 9. The king is unfortunately a scare card, but look at the SPR, James, almost like half-ish, something like that.
Get your chips in. Get your chips in. Get your chips in for the lads. And that's what Skook does. Gets a fold from Pede.
That was a really juicy pot. That played out so well for Skook. Like I said, Pede's calling for the gut shot, picks up the pair. Your opponent's going to barrel a bunch of like as bluffs on that texture. It's kind of unfortunate the king falls because there's a chance Pede might even hero call him on the river for the bounty if it doesn't come another high card, although at that point he is repping pretty strong given the dynamic on this final table.
Ivan opening with king 7, flattered by Pede with king queen in the small. The Grafton for roll math, 10-9 suited, calls as well. And look at this, 8-7-7 on the flop, open-ended straight draw against trip 7s.
I mean, I was going to say 9-10 suited would be such a cool hand to squeeze here, but against the other big stack, I don't think you want to mess around like that. Just keep it simple. 9-10 suited plays great multi-way with the flat pre, but on the flop, options galore. They will have 7x here. Okay. So potential for a check raise, but I think the flat's fine too.
double paired board makes a straight draw a lot less appealing.
It does, yeah, exactly. It's not a turn you're going to see a ton, though. Obviously, there's not that many 8s left in the deck. There's not that many 7s left in the deck.
What is
The
this?
lead.
Can you explain this lead to me? Because I'm very confused right now.
Please keep bluffing, Royal Math. Please do it. Get him off the 7. Obviously, they're playing the board now, guys. Can Ivan get him off the bluff? That would be amazing. Come on, Ivan. You can do it. I believe in you.
Turn lead was so weird.
It wasn't. Honestly, I have to think about it. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but Ivan probably knows at this point that he can get him off a chop. Goes for 24 million. Let's go.
Both playing a full house, 8s full of 7s. The third 7 irrelevant at this point in time, and Roll Math has to decide whether to call for a split.
I think calling for a chop would be the most ridiculous thing to do on a final table like this. Those chips are worth so much money. The best you can hope for is a chop. You're going to be chopping a lot of the times, but when you're not, you're just burning money. It's that whole hand was crazy. Like, to call off that many chips at this point, honestly, I think would be craziness. It's already never going to be a great spot for you no matter what. Calling for a chop is such a negative EV situation.
So
there you go.
Ivan back up to nearly 150 million. And Plan Trap is running on fumes right now. 4.4 million in chips, with the blinds going up to 1 million, 2 million inside of 5 minutes.
Yeah, sticking in there. I mean, Plan Trap's been up and down like a yo-yo, but still on this final table. And if you got a chip and you have a chair, James, that's all you need. A wise man once said.
That's true. It is possible to stand up when playing online. If you've got one of those funky desks, right?
If you have a standing desk.
Whether you want it to elevate up and stand up, or you can elevate down and sit down.
Oh, man. Oh, man. All right, so Queen 6 suited, going to go ahead and open for the absolute min here. Nevermore in the big blind does have something. I mean, a 3-bet from Skook here actually wouldn't be completely crazy. I think King Deuce suited is a great little candidate to have a 3-bet here if you wanted to. Decides to fold. That makes sense too. Nevermore with the option. Now, don't forget how short Plan Trap is in here. So a lot of the more aggressive lines that we might consider in this situation become a lot harder to do. He's going to pull the trigger regardless. I think he's going to get so many folds in that spot that's never going to be bad. I think Ace-8 is fine, but when you're looking across at a 4 million stack and you bust in, 8th place here, excuse me, you're going to feel really, really sad about missing that ladder as well, which is why, there might have been slightly tighter than optimal action there.
Ace Queen suited, and Plan Trap is all in for just over 2 big blinds.
It's a big bounty. It's a big bounty still.
Well, is going to get the ISO re-raised from Pede.
Work too. Pede.
And Plan Trap in a decent spot here, a domination situation, and Ace Queen holding. Ace Queen is good, so Plan Trap doubles up, but is still short with 11 million, posting the big blind of 1.6 here.
Yeah, really interesting spot. I mean, obviously, Pede there just recognizing the 2.3K bounty, going for the sort of small, very small, but a significant raise there. King Queen suited all in here, very interesting, and does actually get the fold from the Ace-3 suited as well, which I don't blame him for. Still a considerable bounty to win there, but a slightly different proposition from the previous one for only 2 bigs or so.
Yeah. That was something important you highlighted, Nick. We're referring to Plan Trap as the short stack and the player very much at immediate risk of elimination. And that bounty, the problem is really, really hard to get anyone to fold when you are worth 2.5K. And even though now we're at the final table, the bounties matter less, not when the payouts are in the kind of 6,000 range and your bounty's 2.5.
Yep, that jump between 9th and 8th is, like 2-ish K, so, sorry, between 8th and 7th, excuse me, is like 3,000 or so. So, winning 2K but losing the opportunity to ladder doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
So definitely need to leverage that. That's what makes these PKO Sunday Millions just so interesting to follow. And of course, we have the benefit of getting all the cards up. So every single hand for us is almost always going to be something of interest to talk about.
This is of interest. This is of interest. Kazeev
Oh, yeah.
opening, plan trap. Hold on a second. Ivan could complicate things with the snowman.
I think a flat. Yes. Yes, the flat. Yes, the flat. Perfect spot for a flat here. If Plan Trap gets it in, this is such a fist pump for Ivan. I think this is probably what he's hoping for. He really wants Plan Trap to put some money in behind. Plan Trap could just fold Ace Jack. He decides not to. I honestly don't know. When Ivan flats, it's so scary because you're always going to be taking a flip, and he can have so many traps in this scenario. In this case, the trap is two pair underneath you though, so still 50% against that combo. But the kings behind is the one he needs to worry about.
So Plan Trap will be at risk here. Does have an ace, and only one has been folded by Nevermore DM.
I mean, oh, such a spot. Kaseev is going to be so strong now. Honestly, I could see him folding eights, but with two bounties in the line worth more than 5,000, something in that region, just under 5,000. Such a big spot where you could just hold your eights against two, like ace king, ace queen, or ace king, ace jack, or something like that. That wouldn't be that ridiculous. Makes the fold. Great fold from eights there.
Never good here, and this is a clean run out for kings. Oh. Let's not play results. Let's ignore the 8 on the river. And instead, let's salute Plan Trap for that 8th place finish, cashing for $6,696 plus 4.6K in bounties, and Plan Trap's bounty claimed by Kazeev, who now has 3.5 grand. A lot of people asking about that ace-queen fold from earlier on. You must be new around these parts and unfamiliar with what happens at the final table when you have huge jumps with every elimination, and there is someone at the table who's playing a handful of big blinds. People will fold pretty much anything to just not get involved, wait for the short stack to bust, so they're guaranteed the ladder. And that's what's now happened. With Plan Trap going out in 8th, everyone's locked up nearly 9.5K.
Kaseev gets dealt kings a second hand in a row on a final table. How do you feel, buddy? Oh, man. Anybody that watches the Nick and Croaks kickoff challenge days, we know how important the Ocho is. You never underestimate an Ocho on a river, ever.
Oh, wow.
Wait a second. What is going on here? Nevermore with the 3-bet squeeze with 7 tray off on the final of the Sunday Million.
Well, again, I have the benefit of all the hold cards. This is not going to work.
Kaseev having the best day of his life right now, waking up with kings twice and winning a huge pot in both.
I mean, this is going to be
18 million here.
A pretty solid final table for Kaseev if they're just going to get dealt kings every hand.
I mean, and if he's getting 3-bet by 7 tray off as well when he's opening under the gun, let's go. Let's go the action. James, I love Sunday Millions. I love them, mate. I love them. So good.
Well, this Sunday Million started yesterday with 10,507 total entries, now down to the final 7 as it comes to the end of its second and final day. Just a couple more hours maybe until we have our winner. Payouts are on the screen, and a reminder, being a progressive knockout format, yes, as far as the payouts are concerned, first and second get the same, but of course that final decisive bounty will put a lot of distance between the winner and the runner-up in terms of money. So who is the short stack now that we've lost Plan Trap? Joe 776, who's playing 35.8 million, and we are now at the 1 million, 2 million blind level. We've got ace 10, we've got ace queen, we've got jacks, we've had the open, the 3-bet. I mean, what do you do with jacks here?
I mean, honestly, I think you can just ship it in. Like the cool thing about that is you. Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. I think that's totally fine from Kaseev.
I'm surprised that Kaseev didn't think about it for a little bit longer, but I guess if you've absolutely no intention of risking your tournament life there, just make the fold.
I was about to say, though, James, the cool thing about shoving jacks there is you will just have the best hand a lot of the time. People can still make mistakes against you, but also Kaseev could be as tight as folding queens there, honestly. I know that sounds completely outrageous, but the cold 4-bet gem from that position can be perceived as extreme strength and might actually warrant folds from hands as strong as queens. Probably when you plug it in, you're not supposed to. But then also when you plug it in, you're also probably expecting your opponents to have like some bluffs in that situation that just don't exist as well. So it's a very, very interesting spot to think about. And when you cover both opponents, again, there's so much additional value in there. We do have an all-in again. Wow. How do we have an all-in again?
5 against ace-9, and 10-5 does not get there. Goodbye, Joe.
What just happened? Wait, is Joe really playing that? Is this going to be a big reveal at the end?
It is not Joe Stapleton. Joe 776 from Germany cashes out for $9.5K plus $1,200 in bounties. Yeah, maybe a bold move from the small blind with 10-5 there, but didn't work out for Joe. Takes us down to 6.
How many big blinds was that, guys? I was talking about the other hand, but then the jam was, I was like, what?
About
it's like 30
15,
million?
16 big blinds.
Wow, blind v blind, the 10-5 suited jam there, very interesting, especially when covered. Like we were talking, me and Spraggy were talking about this earlier. The ICM pressure on the final is such that you should play tighter from that position, and then even tighter than what chips would suggest you should push there. 10-5 suited, definitely on the wide side if you want to be playing playing a jam strategy on a final. But yeah, we're down to 6. There you go.
And the shortest stack right now is Nevermore DM, playing around 20 bigs. Ivan Lamera continues to lead with nearly 150 million chips.
Yeah, he's having a good day. I mean, I would be having a good day if I had 150 million on the final table of the Sunday Million.
7.
Let's go ahead and bet here, 9-4 of spades. I mean, we're getting to the point now where we're redefining the meaning of short stacks, right? For a minute there, guys, we had the extreme shorties, and we saw a lot of snug play, as James pointed out. But now we're getting into the point where 40 million is now the short stack. And as the blinds are going up, that's looking more and more like, 20 big blinds, which again is a stack size that the bigger stacks are going to want to punish to try and win bounties still. These pay jumps, though, as James pointed out, are getting chunkier than many of the bounties available.
Incredibly chunky. So with 6 remaining, everyone's guaranteed nearly 13.5K, more than 19.5 for 5th, close to 28K for 4th, more than 40K for 3rd, and then 54.6 for the winner and the runner-up, plus that final big bounty for the champion. Queen Jack opening on the button. Skook with 10s in the small, 3 bets to 12 million.
Yeah, Royal Mal could still defend this. I think probably you'd prefer to defend a hand like Queen Jack of Spades, has much better playability post flop. It's no secret in the sort of defend 3-bet world that suited hands are just so much better to be calling with in those spots, or at least hands that we know when they connect in a meaningful way that we can feel confident about putting more chips in the middle. Pocket pairs, they're obviously doing fine. They fall in that category. Hands like 8-7 suited, Jack 10 suited, probably okay as well. You just want to feel confident that if you're going to flop something, you can go with it. Hadouken says, mathematically, the 10-5 suited shove was correct, and heads up, you would shove it for 11.9 big blinds. Well, first of all, it was more than 11.9 big blinds. And second of all, you're not taking into account final table ICM, which was the whole point I was trying to make. There. So you need to make adjustments for the final table pay jumps, as well as the fact that your opponent is going to call significantly wider. So the pre-flop jam, so you're talking to somebody that shoves pre-flop every day, like for a living. I know the blind v blind spot in and out, and obviously the adjustments for ICM and for the bounty calls makes that extremely difficult to justify.
I don't care what all these computer programs say. I didn't like it, and that's what matters.
Accidental grenade in the chat. Hello, buddy. I don't look up shoves on charts. I look them up in my gut, and I respect that. Nice work, Accidental.
Exactly. It's kind of like
thank you for bringing some seriousness to this conversation.
Basically saying what I'm saying. You look at it and you say, do I approve or not? And if the answer is no, then I will turn my nose up at it and criticize. This is interesting. Pede had the flush draw on the flop, did not get there, but has decided to bluff river for 28 million. Diamond draw for Ivan missed. Still has the best hand, though, with top pair, and deciding whether to call this bluff. Hero for a big pot here. Folds it.
Gets the fold up to 124 million.
And I have
huge.
to say, whether the situation's been reversed or whether it's that way around, Pede's been getting the better of Ivan, and they're now almost even in chips.
Yeah, Pede there with the 8-9 nut straight blocker. Just like, of course I have 8-9. I can't believe you don't believe me. Come on. He's like, all right, fine, you win. Ivan now getting a run for his money here. Pede is just behind him here in chips on this final table. 6 remain. Svenny says there was a 3-bet on the turn. Yeah, seems reasonable.
So Ivan re-raises the button with ace-queen. Action back on the original raiser. The shortest stack that just got a little bit shorter after that open to 4 mil. And
I was going to say,
is, as far as I'm concerned, now in the danger zone.
Danger zone. Yeah, are you sure it was a 3-bet, Svenny? You mean a raise on the turn, right? There wasn't actually 3 bets on the turn, were there? When people say there was a 3-bet on the turn, they usually mean just 1 raise. So a 2-bet. Okay.
Blinds up in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no problem, Svenny. Just double checking. Don't want to misinform if I'm not paying, especially if I'm not paying attention. Ace-7 off going to open here. Pede now one of the biggest stacks. I would hope to see Pede opening like wide as hell here. Super, super wide. Oh, nevermore. Oh, nevermore. We've seen him make the play before, James. Decides just to flat the king-8 this time. Seems reasonable.
Does not really connect here. Action goes check, check. Pede now an 86% favorite with ace-high.
Yeah, we've seen Pede play these check pots extremely well in previous tables. Nevermore might be tempted to fire now that he's seen a check because his opponent's range is somewhat capped when they don't c-bet here. Goes for 8.8. Now, this is what I was getting at earlier. I think 8.8 is too much for Pede to continue. Had he gone smaller, Pede is the kind of player that recognizes that if he's going to check flop with ace-high, he should probably call several turns. But the interesting thing about that is if Nevermore is going to use that ginormous size, when Pede does have traps, he is just going to get absolutely tons. So I don't know if Nevermore's size is going to be exactly what you want to do because you expose a lot of dead money with a bluff, or you probably could get away with the bluff for a lot less. But in this case, getting ace-high folds absolutely the name of the game, and the larger size is going to work for him.
Ace-7 versus ace-5. Roll math hovering around the 100 million mark. Third on the leaderboard. Kazeev and Nevermore pretty much tied at the bottom. It's ace-10 for Pede. 6s for Nevermore. Folds. Kazeev folds the king-10 suited. Everyone folds.
Yeah, everyone's snug. Skook has an opportunity here. But definitely could go either way. I actually wouldn't mind folding ace-7 if you're going to be playing into Pede and Ivan here, both small blind, big blind. Feels like the Spraggy. Feels like a Spraggy to me. Defend from king-6 of spades. I mean, Pede's just going to defend ultra wide here for the coverage. And just generally speaking, he's going to should defend quite wide versus the 1 open. King-6 could get interesting here. I wouldn't mind seeing a lead here on the turn for like 60% if Pede wants to turn his hand into a bluff. King-high still with showdown though, so he opts for a check. Seems reasonable as well. And a fold. Fair play. Okay, big stack v big stack violence. Ace-5, just a straight fold in the small. Now, that is really interesting to see, James. I know that they are the big stacks here, but I think you could probably still play that hand. And it is an ace. And it is one of those ace-5s that isn't above ace-5, which makes it harder to play because you can't make the wheel draw.
King-5 and, oh, cheeky.
I like the 3-bet from king 5 off here. I do. I think Pede will probably want to come along here, though.
Yeah.
King queen suited is one of those nice hands you can just defend the button with. You're like, okay, let's see a flop. You flop ridiculously hard here sometimes. And on this texture, Skook should be c-betting a lot of the time. He does decide to check instead. I don't think you want to turn king queen into a bluff here. I think you just check again as well. You're just going to be winning here a bunch. Maybe Skook does decide to fire the turn. But he could also just be shutting down. Maybe he's just like, look, I'm going to 3-bet king 5 here because I know it's going to work pre-flop, but now I'm not going to get messed up in a big pot here. It looks like he's just going to give it up.
No.
Again, in Pede's shoes, do you try and get ace-high to fold sometimes by betting the turn? Do you ever get ace-high to fold on a 10-10 trade deuce board where they're checking and trying to get to showdown at all costs? You really could go either way, honestly. It depends on your perceived and the range of your perceived opponent. And a perfect river for king-queen.
Yeah.
Your opponent basically never has a 10 in this situation at this stage, so it's a very clear value spot.
So, no c-bet from Skook, no delayed c-bet. We get
Easy
the delayed c-bet, snap called by Pede, who rivered the pair of queens. Pede takes the chip lead now, has the slight advantage over Ivan.
Yeah, interesting that Skook doesn't want to put in a c-bet on that texture. I think Pede will defend a little bit wider than usual, and I think a c-bet's going to work very often on that super, super dry flop. Once he's checked the flop, is he really telling a believable story about betting the turn? I'm not sure, but very interesting outcome there. And Queen's getting it in, of course. It's less than 20 big blinds, you guys. Ivan might be tempted to gamble with his big stack, but those chips are worth a lot of money for the pay jumps.
Gamble. Gamble. Come on, Ivan. You got the time it takes the board to revolve. Oh.
James wants blood. He wants blood on the arena floor. In the arena floor. The arena has become the Colosseum.
And the blinds are up 1.25 million, 2.5 million.
Yeah, that really changes the perspective here.
I'm just going to say that with Mr. Stapleton away this week, there's been a lot less banning going on. And I was going to say, maybe that's a good thing. And then I see the hilarious thread that's going on right now and thinking, if Joe were here, he would have silenced 90% of these people and the world would be a better place for it.
Gotta love you. Love you, Twitch chat. I love you. Don't know where I'd be without you. Okay. King 8 suited. Still not concerned entering this pot. Kaseev with the opportunity to do something with ace 5 off. I think I like the fold in his shoes, honestly. If you wanted to get really wacky, you know, potentially could be jamming or something like that, but nah, it seems a little bit spewy.
The rotation.
The rotation has occurred. Is Pede ever supposed to check raise here? Is it one of those really, really weird spots where you're supposed to check raise with second pair? And I think the call is obvious. Well, the can't call is mandatory for sure, but I don't know if it's one of those where you're supposed to check raise if you have like king 7 or something like that. Very, very specific, weird middle pair check raise situations. It's kind of goofy on the final table as well. Yeah, you're basically always winning once you get to this river. If your opponent's not betting the turn, they could still have like 10s or jacks and stuff like that they bet the flop and slow down on the turn. But for the most part, you're just going to want to get to showdown. He does. Up to 154 million. That means we have a new chip leader.
Yeah, Pede increasing their advantage over the two Brazilians. Ivan Lamera sitting on around 130 million at the moment. Roll Math has dropped just below 100 million after posting the small blind.
Blind v blind action. Raise it up. 10-6 suited, I think, is an awesome raise there, and I like the size they picked too. These blind v blind spots are so juicy on a final table. If you don't know how to play them, you're just missing out on so much value, so many potential chips here. Even though they are some of the most uncomfortable positions to play when you're playing against good opponents.
Well, this is 9-8 suited versus 4-3 suited. Blind v blind, unraised. Nevermore DM with the option.
I don't hate a raise here. Yeah.
That's the option that Nevermore takes. Gets called by 9-8, and it is Skook who flops best. Pair of eights.
Yeah, I don't know if I think I might prefer a slightly bigger ISO. Yeah, I mean, you're really trying to get folds here pre-flop, you know? I'm really surprised he doesn't go ahead and bet again on the flop here with a 3-4 suited as a bluff. I mean, you need to take charge of the pot at some point, and if you're going to ISO this hand, you need to be bluffing at some stage. He might just opt for the turn bet instead, so he goes for about 1/3 pot. Yeah, it's not going to work. Never. Honestly, he could get an 8 to fold on the turn, but given the flop play, I don't think he's going to have the gumption.
And we've got sixes opening here. We've got eights in the big blind for Kaziv. Got this couple of small aces to get through first. And
Ochos.
Kaziv all in with the snowmans. Num num.
Num num. Where's Croaks? Is Croaks still watching? Don't ever underestimate the Ochos, James. We've been having a lot of weird situations.
If it's almost a sport. Ace Queen opens. And Ivan has Jack 7 off and decides to re-raise to 20 million. Okay.
Let's go.
And is Roll Math going to put another bet in or play the flop in position?
What have we learned about Ace Queen, James? Just don't play it. Just don't play it. Oh man, honestly, you know you probably should be calling here, but you just hate life, and you're like, can't. Okay, I'll take. I don't want to bust right now. I don't want to get in a weird big spot right now. Do you ever just click it back at him? Is the question. Just pick up like 24 million. Do you ever just make it like? Do you ever just make it like 20?
And I'm guessing that's what Math's thinking about, right? It's do I re-raise?
35.
Do I
35K?
shove? Do I
million?
just flat? These are the options. Decides just to call and is rewarded with an ace high flop. 95% favorite over Ivan, who has the pre-flop betting lead, continues for 9 million, chips into the abyss.
Chips in. I mean, he's definitely not going to get it through on the flop, that's for sure. But if you are going to 3-bet here, look at the nice small sizing here. This is so effective. Like, if your opponent is just going to defend King Queen or Jack 10 suited or something like that, you're going to get all the folds for the tiny size. You don't need to go big. He picks up a 7 on the turn.
I was going to say, now that Ivan has a little bit of equity, does Ivan slow down now?
I think you're supposed to. Yes, he does. Now, does Royal Math actually want to protect his hand here, or is he concerned about getting check raised on the turn? Like, he's got the best hand so often. Does he want to reopen the action when the pot is so deep? Potentially get check raised or something wacky like that. Oh! And it's the 7 run out for Ivan. It's the perfect layup. It's the perfect layup.
Always coming 7. We have already got 61 million in the pot. Roll Math's the effective stack with 71.5 million.
Full pot.
And Ace Queen just looks so strong here.
Just full pot. If he has the ace, you're always getting paid. Just full pot. Just like smash it in. It's so big. The biggest bet you've ever made on a river ever. Apart from all in, that looks really scary. There you go. That's my boy. That's my boy right there.
He calls all in.
Call. Oh my God.
A 200 million chip pot for Ivan. The elimination of the other Brazilian, Royal Math 67, cashing out for $13,393 plus 7,800 in bounties. This is now Ivan's tournament to lose. You've got that big a chip lead, 5-handed. Should be able to do some damage now, Nick.
Oh my days, James. That's why we watch this stuff right there. The run out of dreams.
And look at this.
Oh my days. It's the perfect.
Ivan has Broadway, plus has the nut flush draw as backup, and Pele gets away from it. Ivan closing in on $250 million chips.
Unbelievable scenes, James. That is just the ultimate layup. And my boy Ivan was challenging me. He was going, you have to go huge on this river. That's how you play this hand. Your hand is so well disguised. You're always getting paid by an ace. It was incredible. I was here to see it. History in the making. That was incredible. Let's go.
And Ivan opening again, this time with 9-8 suited. Ivan can certainly apply the pressure. There you go. There's understatement of the day. Queen deuce defends. A pair of deuces, but Ivan repping that ace.
Yeah, and I expect him to barrel off really aggressively. Once you hit the 8, though, James, like you said before, you don't necessarily need to continue.
Yes.
It's kind of like the previous pot. He does decide to continue again. It's actually interesting because Nevermore will shove a lot of his ace combos, so he might be value betting against the 5 or the deuce still, so I like the turn bet as well, although you can play it safe if you think Nevermore is ever going to flat. Ace King suited. Let's just go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, should we wrap it up here? Should we kill the stream?
I mean,
okay, thanks for coming, guys.
Ivan's chip lead now getting a little bit ridiculous, close to a 2-1 advantage over Pede 25, who's second on the leaderboard. Meanwhile, Nevermore has dropped down to around 10 big blinds.
Absolute scenes. I mean, at this point, we've said it before, Ivan can just do whatever he wants. It doesn't really matter what he's doing pre-flop. As long as he's avoiding Pede and not doing anything too crazy against him, there's pretty much he can do no wrong. And 10-8 is going to be a steal here. Puts in a continuation bet. I think bet turn. Ivan, don't slow down. Just keep going. Okay, fair enough.
And Ivan does slow down, and Pede's going to get free showdown here? No, decides to bet at it. Feels that they need to bluff it.
No, I think he's going for value, James.
Really?
Honestly, like, yeah, he can get called by king high there. Some smaller pairs for sure. Seems good.
Well, this is Queen 9 versus 9-8, and it is a rotation situation in Ivan's favor. 4.1 into 12.8 gets the call. Has got Skook's number.
Probably bet again. Okay, takes the check. The ace might be an opportunity for Skook to bluff, though.
Yeah.
Does Ivan make the hero call given the fact he checked the turn? I would not be mad at it at all. You can still beat Queen Jack, King Queen, Jack 9.
Makes the
Excellent call. Excellent call. Up to 282 million. That Ivan's got my. Okay, I want Ivan to win now. That's it. Love this guy.
Ivan not deterred by the appearance of Barry Greenstein, and Ivan starting this hand with more than 280 million chips. However, Nevermore, Ace King.
Yeah, a little bit too pricey. Nevermore is going to be a lot stronger than you want him to be there for sure.
Look at those stacks on the left-hand side of the table, Nick. All between 30 and 35 million, all short and all vying right now for ladder positions. No one wanting to be out in 5th place, looking to lock up 4th, 3rd.
Yeah, I think somebody in the chat earlier was asking about who the ICM pressure on was on the most. In this case, it's actually on Pede being the sort of second. It's between Pede and Kasiv, right? Being in the middle here is where you don't want to be. You want to allow the shorter stacks to bust because you have the most to gain. The shorties are the ones that need to get the double. I think given the fact that all the shorties are so close in chips, it's pretty close. We do see a call from Ace-8 here for the bounty.
A set of 10s for Nevermore DM, and that is a double up. That puts some separation between Nevermore and the other two.
Yeah, I mean, Pede can, if it folded around to Pede, excuse me, he probably could just rip 9-6 suited into the big blind, no problem at all, and it probably would be a very, very good line to take. Just to apply max Ace-5 suited, can be very, very aggressive in the situation as well. Probably wants to play it in position, though. Very nice playable hand. Nevermore could just 3-bet here. Does opt to, but again, this smaller sizing is going to get him in so much trouble. We've seen a lot of these smaller sizes from Nevermore on the final table so far. Very small ISO versus Skook, and then a very small squeeze size. It does get through on this occasion, but just such an inviting size when there's so much dead money out there already.
So Ivan still hovering around the 282 million mark. No one else has more than 100 million. You'll notice that Pede has dropped below that mark. And Ivan continuing to accrue chips.
King 5 off. We've seen it before. Aggro. Go all day. There you go. Look at the size as well. Let's go. Just punish it.
Oh.
Pede is so handcuffed here. Just keep leaning on him.
Just a horrible position to be in right now. Nothing you can do. And continuing the pressure, Ivan raises the button, steals the blinds, closing in on the 300 million mark now. Oh, hello. Going to meet some resistance here. We've got King 10 in the small for Skook, and we've got Ace Queen for Nevermore. There's the shove from Skook. Nevermore may reshove. Does.
Cream, especially against the Big O. Yep.
And here we go. Skook at risk and behind. Clubs are a factor. Clubs. Nope.
Oh.
And Ace High holds. And that is the elimination of Skook 81, the Canadian, out in 5th place. Nearly $20,000 in prize money, plus 4.5K in bounties. We are down to 4. Nevermore now in 2nd place.
Yeah, that's a huge moment for Nevermore. What a hold. And the flop as well, so dangerous. Kings? This could be it for Kasif. There's no way out. There's no way out. He has to jam this hand 100% of the time. Snap with Kings.
And Nevermore in a great spot to eliminate Kasif. But Ace. Always an ace on the desk, especially when you have Kings. And now it's Kasif who sits in 3rd place. And the stack's relatively even. Yes, Ivan's got that monster lead, but then Pede, Kasif, Nevermore, all bunched together, which is not a bad situation for Ivan to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, you know, that little balancing moment. We've seen it so many times before, James. You know, it just allows him to apply so much more pressure, makes it so much easier for him to just lean on these sort of middling stacks that are all vying for the opportunity to be in 2nd in chips. So in a way, that was run good for Ivan. You know, it's really, really interesting how that dynamic changes now. And Kasif's got to be thrilled about that final table run good. Oh my days, that's a huge moment.
It seems inevitable Ivan's going to cross that 300 million mark very, very soon. No doubt before we get to the next break. Queen 10 opening here. King 10 in the big blind for Pede.
All right, how's it going to go? Queen 10 has the initiative if they'd like to take it here. And obviously backdoor clubs to help along the way. Nice small size here. Really, really appreciate these smaller sizings at the stack depth. We've seen it all day long. So many opportunities for our opponents to, or for our players to have adjusted their bet sizing, and actually would have probably been very beneficial for later streets. All right. Yeah, 10-5 off, not so sexy on the button. Definitely an opportunity to steal into Kasif here. I think Queen 6 suited is fine to go ahead and raise. We are getting a little bit on the shallower side, but I still think probably it's going to be like 50% raise, 50% limp. If you're looking at that range.
Queen 9 versus Queen 8, blind v blind. The shove, but gets quickly folded by Ivan.
Yeah, I think that is totally reasonable there. It is a little bit on the deeper side, but you don't want to be exploited by the big stack. If you start raising there not all in, I think your opponent is very incentivized to jam a lot of stuff you don't want him to. And you can still get hands like ace high, king high to fold there if you're shoving that combo as well. That's really important. If you're shoving there and your opponent can just call with any king, any ace, it's just like you're just not having a good time anymore.
So 3's opening on the button, but 9's for Nevermore in
just ship
the
it, I
big
think.
blind.
I think just shipping it is the best way to go. You just really don't want to take a flop with 9s at this stage in the tournament. You've got the best hand so frequently, like unbelievably. Like that button open is going to be so incredibly wide. You need to consider how many folds you're going to get and how much money you win when you see those, and then getting called by worse as well. Nines is one of those great combos to get called by ace-9 suited or ace-8 suited or ace-7 suited to try and gamble for bounties. Pocket 8s, pocket 7s, pocket 6s might even gamble with you. It's just a very, very high value spot, but not one that you want to be messing around with post-flop at the moment.
Also, the blinds did recently go up to 1.5 million, 3 million. So even though these guys have got tens of millions in chips, they're relatively shallow right now. A6 all in against A7.
Wow.
And there's a 7 on the flop.
Not the 7.
And that will do it for Kazim. KO'd by Ivan, who's up over 350 million and has claimed another bounty and is now worth nearly $6,000. As for Kaziv, cashing out for $27,951, plus Kaziv won $6,921 in head prizes tonight.
Yeah, condolences, man. That was quite the performance. But Ivan, man, I mean, the reason I gasped there, obviously, Ivan does have him dominated, quote unquote, James. But that's one of the combos where we're going to see a lot of chop pots, right? A7 versus A6. Some overcards fall. It's not that uncommon for that to be a chop. So to find the 7 and just have a completely clean run out there is so huge for Ivan, and just massive, massive, massive for his final table.
And that is going to take us to the break. So yes, we have got 3 players remaining at the final table of this week's Sunday Million, and a slight imbalance in the stacks. We've got Pede 25 from Denmark playing 87.7 million. Nevermore DM from Belarus playing 94 million. And we've got Ivan Lamera from Brazil playing 343 million. Huge advantage. Should we get Mr. Spragg back into the conversation?
If he's ready.
Spraggy, are you with us? Spraggy. Spraggy. Spraggy.
I saw it coming.
Hello?
I saw you sat there and I took a shot. I figured he's probably listening. He's probably paying attention, but no, I misjudged it. Obviously, this could be over relatively soon, depending on how things go. Ivan, obviously, with the monster chip lead as things stand. The most important question that I need to ask you, and it was a question that Chris Has Wings posted earlier on. He was appreciating your top-notch poker analysis, but he says what he really wants to know is what is Spraggy watching on Netflix right now? And before you answer, I would like to thank Finton for the viewer dump.
Thanks, Vincent.
Thank you very much, Finton. Indeed, actually, I'm in the middle of 2 shows. Better Call Saul, where I'm up to date with, I think we're season 6, and we're getting new episodes weekly now.
Yes.
And then last night, I started watching Stranger Things season 4. And without any spoilers, because I know people will be watching or haven't watched or at different points in the show, it's the first 2 or 3 episodes are terrifying.
Yeah.
More so than the first 3 episodes of Stranger Things. I was watching it alone in a Nottingham hotel room last night, and I nearly had to turn it off. I'm a 32-year-old man. I was spooked. I was scared.
It's definitely a lot scarier than the previous seasons by far.
I was saying that when we've talked about Stranger Things before, I gave up after season 2, and a lot of people were saying, oh, no, you need to get back into it. And I'm like, no, we'll see. But the one thing we can all agree on is that Better Call Saul is a masterpiece of a TV show. And what I love with the direction it's taken, and in the previous seasons, we've had those short black and white scenes, which are I want to say present day, but all the stuff that's set after Breaking Bad. And now we get a full episode. And this is very much The Godfather Part 2. If Breaking Bad is The Godfather, Better Call Saul fits the model in that some of it is set before and some of it is set afterwards. And I love the fact that we're now seeing the what happened next part play out, in addition to the story of how Jimmy McGill became the Saul Goodman that we know from Breaking Bad. It is stunning, and I can't believe there's just a few episodes left. It's a show I really will miss, and once a week is not enough. Is there anything you're binging, Nick, that you want to recommend?
No, I was actually just finishing season 4 of excuse me, of Stranger Things as well. And I kind of was the same as you, James. I kind of was like, season 1 was cool. Season 2 was like, and I watched season 3, and I kind of Stranger Things is one of those things I kind of struggle to get into when it's released, and then once I start, I can't stop. So I just kind of finished that last episode, and I did actually think that this was one of the better seasons compared to 2 or 3. That's kind of what I'm getting through as well. I'm trying to find the new season on Netflix, but I'm just not sinking my teeth into much, and I always find myself scrolling through my phone about halfway through episode 1 on all of them, which means I missed the whole of the episode, and then I want to restart. So I need to get my series watching etiquette on point as well. I'm not respecting the shows while I'm watching, you know.
Yeah, it's tough. And to be honest with you, I find it quite overwhelming. Just so many things that get recommended. You fall behind, and I've got like complete seasons of Ozark still to watch. I'm conscious of the fact that Westworld season 4 is mounting up on my Skybox, and it's like, what do I watch next? What do I start on? And just there aren't enough hours in the day with everything that we want to do and all of the demands on our time. Maybe I should, in the words of my good friend and co-host Joe Stapleton, read a book. Guys, we can get back to the final table in just a moment. 5-minute break for the players, and a very good chance that this one will be done within the next hour. This might be the last break we get before it reaches its conclusion, because we do have Ivan Lamera with a, I wouldn't say stranglehold, but it's been a while since we've seen one player have such a strong advantage, especially short-handed. And in these situations, Nick, if Ivan knows what he's doing, he can really basically stop Pede and Nevermore from being able to play hands.
I think at this point it's safe to say he knows exactly what he's doing. He's played so masterfully in the last part of this final table, and he's played so well in some very, very clinch situations. He appears to know that his aggression is going to pay dividends, and that's what he's been doing. And then even the call with ace-7 I think was really cool. I mean, when you're looking at these spots, it can be like, oh, he's got an ace, his opponent's going to shove super wide. But I think it's actually a lot closer than it looks, and needs to understand what his opponent is going to shove in those scenarios to make a call like ace-7. And now look at him. He managed to get the chips from Nevermore into another stack and then completely stack that opponent to be three-handed. So really a massive moment for him there. And I think we're going to see him ship this. It's hard for me to see him not running these guys over. He's just been playing too well, and the cards have been running with him too.
It's a very clean distribution for him now, probably as clean as it gets, where you have two basically equal stacks. For now, this might change things pretty significantly.
Did I speak too soon, James?
We're going to see
that's amazing.
All of them in the middle.
Everything's going his way. The chips are going his way. The cards are going his way. I don't see any situation where he loses. Cut to runs 10s into aces.
I wonder if Pede just like really fast play this, and then he can actually justify a fold. Like for Pede to jam in the situation, I guess he could still have like, okay, the king might slow him down a little bit, potentially.
Nah, there's just not enough left. Pede's got less than pot behind, and I think
some way they find their way into the middle.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No 10 on the river. That is the full double up for Pede, and that evens things out, ladies and gentlemen. However, now ace-king versus ace-4. That's it. Make it look like you're tilting.
Pede's in a little bit of a different situation now, right? In that he's kind of now like wanting to hold on as a middle stack because there's a clear path for him to second, which is a big jump. So he's now really doesn't want to go up against Ivan, even more so with Nevermore being significantly shorter.
Yeah, I mean, I would be raising this all day long, Spraggy. This seems like a really clear lean on Nevermore position. You can just start making it like 3x to go here, something like that. Wow, really interested to see a fold there. I mean, as you say, he's obviously looking for Ivan to do some of the work with him, but I feel like in those situations you can really start squeezing on the shorter stack, especially with the coverage.
Yeah, with the coverage too. I think from what we've seen so far, Pede is probably someone who's going to lean into the tighter side of things more often than anyone else. Obviously, like a tight fold earlier, different situations, but with ace-queen pre-flop and pocket jacks pre-flop, so not surprised to see like a path of least resistance taken by Pede.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I've Nevermore so far, just a couple spots. I seem to be playing pretty well, but there's just a couple spots we're seeing some smaller sizings that I think are maybe a little bit inappropriate. That limp just then, I think, was very, 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 what's the word? Optimistic. You know,
optimistic.
He's limping like 9-3 suited or whatever it was, hoping to just, get to a flop. And then, I think if you're going to limp 9-3 suited, you're getting raised. You should probably be defending in that situation if that's how you're going to play your hand. Otherwise, you're just going to get run down by Ivan like every single time.
Yeah, and again, a showdown there with the king 9. Doesn't win, but certainly a hand that could have considered bluffing. I don't think has enough to show down and has some like, interesting blocking properties.
Yeah, I mean, even if Pede is going to lean into being more passive, the fact that he's just open folding 9-7 and 10-7 there is probably already not great. Like, those are hands that are, if you don't want to play them aggressively into the short stack, I think you're probably giving them too many free chips just by folding outright, because you can still limp and then fold it to a raise if you want. And Nevermore has to be quite honest. It's not the same position as Nevermore versus Ivan, where he's the huge stack and he's going to raise any 2 cards, right? He's going to be more handcuffed to just playing his hand more face up because he doesn't want to get check raised and diminish his chips even further.
We do see Pede in position with the dominating hand here. Getting a little bit of action.
Oh, a bit of rotation, but hearts are still working for Pede.
Yeah, and Pede's hand still does put perfectly serviceably at showdown. It's a really interesting run out. Pretty scary.
Double paired run out.
Pretty scary for Pede in the sense they probably can't fold to a lot of bets, right? They still have ace high. That's greedy. That's a lot.
I love the overbet there. Ivan just getting in there with the overbet again. It's very different from the sevens run out that we saw earlier, Ivan. I think full pot would have been fine, but that's cool. I appreciate the polarizing size.
Hearing from a few people watching the stream as the free roll reached its conclusion that they have claimed $109 tickets and can potentially play next week's Sunday Million for free.
For free?
The best price in poker. Congrats everybody who made it.
That is really cool,
Congratulations
guys.
to those who didn't.
Honestly, that's some ridiculous value. Those are some of the best value little spots you can play. So if you're not watching the Sunday Million, getting in those, you're doing it wrong, you guys. Join us. Join the dark side.
Also, the $11 Road to Sunday Million tickets for those who didn't make a 109. Is that correct?
Yes.
Sicko.
Congratulations to everybody except those who finished outside of the tickets. Who
I mean,
better luck next week.
If you're going to be rubbish at poker, you can't expect a ticket.
That's from James Hartigan himself, folks, as well.
Speaking of tickets, Spraggy, what are you going to use your Streamer Showdown ticket that you won? Was it last Friday?
Last Friday Streamer Showdown, yeah, I won the $1,000 ticket. I don't know, maybe the Thursday throw this Sunday.
Woo,
This Thursday, they put that one on. Clues in the name. Yeah, I expect so.
That was, I meant to ask you about that earlier on, Ben. That was a bit of a comeback because at one stage you used, like you're on your third and final stack and things were not looking good. And you fought your way back into contention, got heads up, but there was no stopping that Schneider's guy.
That Felix train was on full pump, wasn't it?
It was unreal.
I was actually inspired for the comeback, James, because I noticed, obviously, some members of our community, they like to see certain members of the team lose. And there was a big James Hartigan hate train in the chat headed in my direction. James was quick to point out that I was a favorite to win, but like you say, very nearly out in sixth. But comeback was real.
I mean, it helped that, like, you got a massive chip dump to him from Rory and GJ, but, you know, that's no big deal as well.
And I nit rolled GJ as well with the jacks. I don't. The pressure of James in the chat and everything combined just got to me. I don't know what happened that hand.
Rarely, if ever, not on your side, and I distinctly remember complimenting your cat mug.
That's true. That's true. Okay, I'll allow it. We're back on good terms.
Yeah, no, that was quite the comeback. It was great. I could have easily gone for a couple more hours though. That was a lot of fun.
Those games are always really good fun. Yeah,
great little Friday.
Enjoyable.
If you guys didn't catch that, by the way, we started doing some Streamer Showdown. 6 cameras, 6 streamers, all duking it out for pretty considerable prizes. I think first place was over £3,500 worth of value. Spraggy took over 1K for second. Everyone was guaranteed some kind of a decent ticket. And yeah, we're going to be doing more of them in the future. So keep an eye on the social media platforms for those guys, because I really want more people to see that stuff. That's a really, 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 really fun piece of poker content that I think we should do way more of.
Well, this is all your fault, Walsh. You bigged up this guy. You said it was inevitable he was going to win, and now the stacks are evening out. Ivan's slowly but surely losing that massive advantage.
Nah, he'll fold here. That's fine. He'll fold this one. He'll fold this one. This guy, this is.
I don't know. In position with ace 10.
This is an unusual line for Nevermore. I don't know about that. I think it's a lot better if they're shorter and he limp jams. I think ace 10 probably still calls, but Ivan's like, I don't know if I've seen this play before. Great fold there, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of those that, in theory, ace-10 is kind of a criminal fold, but people don't find, as you say, Nick, enough of those limp 3-bets with like the lower end ace-x or lower end offsuit king-x or something. So disciplined fold, but I think probably going to do well against population.
If we're like 24, 23, 20 big blinds effective, it's gonna, instead of being a limp raise, it'll be a limp jam moment. In which case you're snapping ace-10 all day long because they're still gonna limp jam with like some lower ace-x and some small pairs and stuff like that too once you've invested. So it seems a lot better there, and I think in that spot probably under limp raise bluffed, like as you say. Yeah.
Nobody bluffs enough anyway. You got to be a bit of a coward.
You do. That's the problem with following the solvers. Head Queen 8 off. Seem to be very, very tight in these situations. Now sevens kind of falls into a category where you want to be limp raising for sure. We are a little bit on the deeper side again though, so it's a bit of a different scenario that I'm used to looking at. I think protect the sevens on the turn though makes sense. There you go.
Yeah, I think sevens at this point probably good enough blind v blind to go for a couple streets.
Hang on.
Now, very interesting, both players playing the board.
Oh, there's an opportunity here for some three-way singing.
Thank goodness. Nevermore. Unless we see a call, which I don't think we're going to, you have my eternal gratitude. I can handle a little bit of heads up singing. I think three ways is beyond me today. A nice bet, though.
That's why they pay him the big bucks, James.
Honestly, it's kind of a bet that's incongruous with the line because I'm not sure Nevermore bets that much ace high on the turn.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Ivan probably calls more ace high in position. So it's one of those they get away with it this time, but it's definitely taken some risks.
Yeah.
I do like it in the sense that it stops the tuneful contribution.
The tuneful contribution, as it should be known.
I mean,
that's what it'll be shown to be known as forever.
Tuneful in inverted commas, quite frankly. Ace-6 in the small, ace-queen in the big.
Okay, we're not auto-modding out three ways. That's fine. We're definitely gonna keep that in the chat.
A lot of people in the chat asking why we're seeing a fold when it was quads. Don't forget, it's always the best 5-card hand. So yes, you have quads, but you're gonna need a kicker. So the kicker plays. If someone's got an ace, they got the nuts. The king was on board, but to call 3 pots, they would at best be chopping because it was 4 threes and a king.
Yeah.
So if Nevermore has an ace, they play 4 threes and the ace kicker.
Correct. And it's one of those weird spots. It's kind of like when there's a full house on board and somebody like jams aces. You know, it's like you kind of like, it's a spot where you're kind of always going to be good, but remember, calling for a chop is just always going to be a garbage situation, right? Like that's why if you can find opportunities to represent hands your opponents can't have when there's a chop on board is really, really beneficial because you're free rolling them.
Is not insignificant.
Is
yeah, that 30 million bet on the river snapped by Ivan, and that puts some separation between these players again. Ivan closing in on the 300 million mark as the blinds go up to 1.75, 3.5 million.
Yeah, and with the chop on board, it might be a little bit thin from Nevermore taking that sizing with the ace-6 and duly punished by Ivan's ace-queen, and that sort of pushes things back. In Ivan's favor, nice bit of separation, of course, between them and Nevermore, but between them and Pede as well now.
Right.
And Ivan pairs the deuce on the river. 6 is good though, and check to showdown. Pede hovering around 165 million.
I think that hand there kind of indicative of what we're likely to see against Pede. In other scenarios, I think a 6 with a jack kicker, given the action, they might go for value. But there's a very big negative effect for Pede if they reopen the betting against the chip leader with the short stack in play. So a lot of these spots where it'll look like Pede can bet with the best hand, you'll see them err on the side of caution because, of course, they can try and go for like 7 million extra chips. But reopening the betting, they risk getting check raised. So there'll be a lot more like just happy to take showdown type deals for them.
Calm down, Ivan.
Look at the turn bet here. I mean, I don't know if the 6 for me would have been a speed up card, but Ivan seems to think so. And the straight on the river here. Wow,
I might jam if I'm Ivan to get to fold out a lot of chops still straight on the board.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to rep it on the turn, right? So potentially could do it.
And has the worst hand they're ever going to have. They have the nut low.
Oh.
Ivan, 8-9. All in.
Does it. It's all into call for Nevermore, who has the 7 high straight.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I guess they play the board, right? But good blockers. Got a heart. Block 7-8.
Makes the call. And Nevermore doubles up to 162 million as Ivan drops below 200 million. The stacks are evening out again.
Huge pot, huge turnaround. Great run out for Nevermore.
Yeah, really, really awesome. I mean, there's so many rivers where Ivan could have just put in that third barrel and probably would have actually gotten away with it as well, but just the perfect run out for Nevermore there. And as you say, with the strawberry blocker as well, helps a lot.
Yeah, a real rebalancing now. All to play for. Definitely anyone's game at this point.
Yeah.
Still.
Again, we came back from break thinking that this was going to be a pretty decisive session for Ivan and possibly the session where Ivan closed it out, but I'm not so sure anymore. And psychologically, something happens to people when they have that massive chip advantage and they lose it. It's very rare they get it back. And that's not through fortune, it's sometimes because of their judgment.
Yeah, I think Ivan's been really solid thus far. I think that's the only pot where I think I probably have some questions. Like when your opponent defends the big blind, seems like that turn is probably going to be good for them a lot of the time. I don't know about you, Spraggy. Seemed like the kind of turn where you want to just go ahead and slow it down at that point when you've got 8-9.
I think on the turn, like 8-9 is probably one of your worst hands, and I do think you want to be applying some pressure. Of course, there's probably still, it's like 4-3. There's probably still a lot of hands like Jack 4 suited or like King 6 suited or whatever that turns a pair that you can definitely get to fold over 3 streets. Really, Nevermore's in a position where like it's really hard to call down without a 5. Even some of the 2-pair combos by the river are going to hate life, and 8-9 is kind of like nut low territory.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a decent turn some of the time for Nevermore, like those low connecting, straight connecting cards. We do see some value betting here with the jacks and a nice pickup for Ivan moving slightly ahead again. But yeah, I don't hate the 8-9. I can certainly see argument for slowing down. I think once you get to the river, it's a mandatory slam.
Yeah,
I think actually you're going to have to slam everything you get with at the river just because it's a chop so often. And kind of like first person to put all the chips in the middle wins invariably.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. No, I completely agree. Especially if you're gonna wrap the turn, I think it's a slam dunk river for sure, especially blocking backdoor hearts and stuff like that.
So Broadway draw for Pede, top pair for Nevermore. Heads up to the turn, and Nevermore better than a 9-1 favorite with 1 card to come.
Wow, Pede does decide to continue here. You know, just trying to really heavily rep that ace. I think at this point you're really trying to get a jack to fold.
Yeah.
But you do have a showdown with the king high on the river. Now you're being the flush draws, so he does check, and ace 10 does get up to 215. Very close to a new chip leader from what was dire straits, James.
Absolutely. And Nevermore and Ivan pretty much tied for first. Pede now dropping down.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, Pede is probably the player who's going to perform most poorly when they're in this situation because they have proven to be a little bit snug pre-flop. And obviously, three-handed, when you become the short stack, you kind of are having to find shoves and reshoves. So I think Pede is going to have to try and find some cards if they're going to get back into this rather than sort of engineering those situations themselves based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really telling as well because we kind of, as Spraggy pointed out, Pede kind of going, oh, cool. So now they're 2 big stacks and 1 shorty. So we're going to find out really quickly whether or not that was by design or if, you know, they're going to change gears now all of a sudden. And actually that was part of their plan. But now they know a short stack, they have to kind of speed things up now and try and get a little bit more involved with a wider range. Or if all along they were just playing more snug as an overall strategy. And
I love this from Ivan. Gets the turn with 10 high. Obviously a hand that benefits a lot from folding out exactly the sort of thing that Nevermore has. A king high.
Love it.
Can very credibly rep a lot of 8s, having called the flop. Sizes so that they can shovel in on the river, sort of leveraging that stack. They're saying on the turn, I'm betting this sizing so I can be all into the river. They don't need to be, but like the implication that they might be is enough to get a lot of folds.
Yeah. Completely agree. Very, very cool line there.
So Ivan with the advantage once again, more than $250 million. Blind v blind, and it's a rotation situation with Ivan pairing their deuce.
I think just bet flop here. Just go big and just end it right there. I like that a lot with the deuce 4 for sure. Hello. Hello.
Ooh, jacks on the button for Nevermore. The ace-queen suited for Ivan in the small. Re-raising to 35. Guys, Peday's kind of relatively short there and around 20 bigs. You might just want to kind of slow down a little bit here.
It's hard to say because you do have, like, obviously we want to be a little bit tighter, but these are such massive hands, three-handed, and
you've got fold equity as well, so you have to consider that.
I don't think Ivan's folding ace-queen suited, and I think we're going to see
either,
a ridiculously massive flip. 361 million chip pot, check high flop, check high flop, and the full house on the river. And Nevermore has the monster chip lead now with more than 360 million.
James, you go. Oh, this is a flip on the final table of Sunday Million. Oh, it's top set on the driest board of all time. No big deal. That's easy. Yeah, cool.
Well, hang on a minute. They flopped 60% of a royal flush. They were pretty much there, but yes, all but dead, Nick. By the way, Nick, if I'm ever on a significant final table and I chip lead at any point, don't say anything about me. Don't come near me. Don't look at me. Like 10 minutes ago, oh yeah, Ivan's a clear favorite. Heaps of chips. The Nick Walsh curse in full effect.
It's true. We've seen it before, haven't we, James? Honestly, I should just, stay out of it. Sorry, guys.
And Nevermore in a great position to really pressure the other two who are tied for second. Second also equals last right now. Here's a flip. Ace-10 versus sevens. 10 high flop. And that is going to be a double up with trip 10s for Peday 25. Nevermore still big chip leader. Bad news for Ivan, who is now the short stack. Ivan from first to third in a few hands.
Yeah, and that's how quickly it can change. You know, we spoke a little bit about Ivan's chip lead, but it's all to play for but 5 minutes ago, and that flip, obviously massive shift in Nevermore's favor. Bit of a setback, and Peday back into the game, and Ivan's still there with 72 million. Don't forget, 72 million, still 22 big blinds. It's going to go quicker because we're three-handed. We're paying blinds more frequently, but Nevermore very much in the driver's seat. Yeah. Also worth considering that Ivan, as the shortest stack now, has 5.8k bounty on their head, which, yes, we see a $14,000 pay jump, but 5,878. It's not insignificant at this point, and it's certainly a nice overlay to have if you're playing for 20 big blinds. It's definitely something that's going to be in consideration.
Okay, Ivan flopping good here, top two. Not a lot for Nevermore to be excited about. Folds to the flop bet. Pocket eight, the snowman's num.
Yeah, I think he can be really aggro with the eights here. There is this sort of chip distribution situation now, so he might opt for a flat as opposed to a 3-bet. And he just likes to flop sets for fun. No big deal.
How did we
final
get
table sets?
Three-way to a flop here.
You've got to let the ace represent now, right? If you're Nevermore.
Yeah, I think I check again.
I think I check again. You got to let the button try and represent it now. It's a very easy spot for them to bet. But I mean, Peday has been pretty snug. Now you have to bet though. Mandatory bet with the eights if nobody's going to be putting chips in. I think you just want to get paid by a queen or an ace or maybe king some of the time. That would be kind of weird though. The fact that he missed the flop bet, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think trying to target like an ace-4 or something that checks back the turn with the pot size bet. I agree with you, Nick. I could definitely make argument for a smaller sizing. Try and target a queen-jack or a queen-9 or something in that territory.
It's the kind of run out where had the action been different on previous streets, you just like, oh, cool, I'm always going to get paid here. I'm just going to go really big. But I think given the slowdowns, you don't have a ton of hands that love it on the river there still when you're going for full pot.
King 7 on the button, ace-6 in the big blind, and it is top pair versus second pair. Advantage Peday.
Yeah, and we do see that check back. I think Peday did something similar earlier where they checked back with the top pair. I think King 6-3 Rainbow is going to be a lot of betting, but I don't necessarily hate it. I don't think it's going to be too bad. Backdoor straight draw, flush draw, weaker king, keeps them in there. Fine, whatever. I'm okay with it. Great fold on the turn with the ace-6, just letting it go.
Yeah, I think for the most part, making top pair in three-handed, you always bet top pair basically, which is why it can be very advantageous to, study up on these because you can cap your opponent's range so much.
I think I just ripped the fours.
Yeah, I think I ripped the fours too. But I was gonna say I think that you definitely get a fold from ace 10 if you rip here as well, don't you?
Yeah, now you just hate having pocket fours and probably just out of position facing a raise. They do take a flop.
Yeah.
No such luck with the set for Pede. Top pair for Nevermore.
But it is important to have some top pair checks as well once in a while. You just don't want to do it too often because otherwise you're missing out on mountains of value three streets, which is really what you always want to be, trying to put yourself in as many positions to flop to get three streets of value as possible.
Well, Ivan, one-time monster chip leader, now dropping down into the danger zone.
Danger zone.
Less than 60 million at the 1.75, 3.5 million blind level. Blinds going up in a minute to 4.
Yeah, and Pede definitely in the situation now where I think they'll be holding tight. Got a one eye on that stack of Ivan. 56 million. As I say, it's getting towards that danger zone. It's getting to a point where it's all in sooner rather than later, especially three-handed. So Pede just looking to take that ladder. It's worth $14,000.
Yeah.
And could be over in a matter of minutes for them. So it's good hourly if you can get it.
Yeah, worth recapping.
I think the only thing Nevermore shouldn't be... Sorry.
I was just going to say, Spraggy, worth recapping the fact that they are all guaranteed 40,780 for third place. First and second effectively getting paid the same, but of course the final bounty will put difference between first and second.
Yes, and I was going to say, that I think the only thing that Nevermore shouldn't be doing blind v blind is folding. Yep. So I think a limp with everything and then mostly raising. Like even something like 4 suited, like they're so keen to take flops with that extra 5.8k on the line that I think they'll be playing close to 100% of hands blind v blind with this distribution.
Completely agree. In the same way that when Ivan was in the big blind and he was the huge stack, Nevermore shouldn't be limping such a wide range.
Oh. Nevermore opens with ace 10. The all-in from ace 3, a domination situation. Ivan way behind. And Ivan, one-time chip leader, is out in third. KO'd and cashing for 40k plus 11,700 in bounties. We are heads up. And it's Nevermore versus Pede. Paying for, a reminder that we combine the bounties and multiply by 2. So playing for 7,600 multiplied by 2, 15,000 something. 15,200.
16-2.
16-2. Thank you, Benjamin.
15-2.
15-2.
I think I'm wrong. 15-2.
Okay. Because 15-2.
Final answer. Good hand at the start. Pocket queens.
Absolutely. And the shove from Jack 7 snap called.
Wow, the Jack 7 jam.
What just happened?
What's happening here?
Net result, Pede's KO'd, and it's over. Nevermore is the champion. That'll do it, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to Nevermore DM. Cashing for $54,629 plus nearly 30k in bounties. Total prize money of 82 grand. Pele 25, the runner-up, also gets 54,600 plus 2,600 in bounties is 57k in prize money. What a strange hand to end it. Key question, did Pede have somewhere to be?
I really hope that... I mean, listen, it's an adventurous play. I really hope that Pede didn't look at the payouts and be like, oh, it's the same thing. It's first and second is the same. Like, surely, like, they play a bounty tournament the whole time. No. They must understand the keeping of the bounties and the exchange of the bounties. Maybe they just wanted to, get it over and done with. Try and take a risk, put it in with the Jack 7. I would imagine that's the case.
Anyway, quickest heads-up battle ever. We'll take it. We're done before the top of the hour. Spraggy, thank you so much. Look, I know you obviously had a pretty exhausting physically and mentally weekend playing poker at DTD, so I appreciate you making the trip back home, joining us this evening. As ever, sir, awesome work, love your analysis, and hope we can work together again soon, but definitely we'll catch up in Barcelona.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. It's always lovely to come on here and watch some poker. I used to play a lot of heads up, so I was kind of excited and ready to go through the heads up and see which way it shifts. But there you go, one hand, bang, all over, Sunday Million winner.
What can you do? Nick, congratulations on applying the commentator's curse. Good news, buddy. You get to do it again next week because you're back with me, and Maria will join us for next week's stream.
I can't wait. And I'll be streaming tomorrow from 12 p.m. back here on Central Channel with Croaks as well. If you guys want to come join us, we're playing more KO Challenge. And you guys can play along at home now. I made a spreadsheet for you and everything. It's really cool. Come and join us.
Fantastic. And of course, there will be another Sunday Million next Monday. As I mentioned, Nick and Maria will join me for more action from this $109 1 million guaranteed PKO. But that's it for tonight. Hope you enjoyed the fun. From Benjamin Spragg, Nick Walsh, and me, James Hartigan, it's good night from the PokerStars Arena.